that'll never ever end.
Greetings and welcome to Unveiling Reality. How's it going, everybody? Hope you are all doing and living well. And why does that look so strange? Okay. Welcome to the show, guys. So happy that you're all here. Hopefully everything's coming through loud and clear. Wolfram, thanks for dropping the links. Remember to listen to the Wolf. You know, as we was talking about, wipes his paws, lips in and howls. That's how you know he's here. Memento Mori, what's up? How you doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I'd like to thank each and every member of the Winner Circle, including those who subscribe on a monthly basis. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. And also special thanks to Shelly and Wolfram, who also support us over on Rumble with monthly subscriptions over there. Thank you guys so much. Let's see. We are broadcasting live on Rumble, X, and YouTube. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and you hit the follow because that helps us grow. Helps get the word out there for the base takes on reality. All right. Yeah. Hang loose. They say call me on there. It's like, but it's like I always use that one. It's like the hang loose surfer sign. People think I started using that. People are like, wait, they're gonna think I want them to call me. I don't really want them to call me, but tonight we're gonna take a look at some really cool stuff, man. In terms of, well, not really cool. It's actually really alarming stuff. But I'm going to break it down for you, so and hopefully it makes a lot of sense. And we're going to start by taking a look at what fifth generational warfare is. It's going to be a real quick part, just an introduction, basically, just to kind of get our minds in the right place. So as we dive deep into this digital warfare landscape, we kind of get a basis for where it's coming from and what it's all about, in a bigger sense than just election politics or just, this and that. It's more than that. Of course, we've been talking about that since day one on this show right here, Unveiling Reality. The entire show is about this. Start to finish, all the different topics, all the different psychological warfare methodologies, institutions, all the things that piece it together. And what is it the world we experience, right? What is the reality we experience, and how is it veiled by these different different methodologies and tactics that are out there, and to what ends? That's what it's all about. But I wanted to get us kicked off tonight by kind of refreshing. For some, it'd be a quick refresher, but for others, maybe the first time you've ever heard these terminologies or ever heard of fifth generational warfare. Got a quick 10-minute piece on that. Well, actually, 8-minute piece on that, sped up. And then we're going to get into a big report that breaks down how the DNC is already fully engaged in perception management practices for this election and for many other topics. But how they go about doing it, how they build the profile on individuals and feed them the content they want to when they want to. We're gonna have a long report on that, which I'll be breaking down it into the technical sense, what it looks like behind the curtain, what the actual programs are doing when they're doing what they're talking about. I'm gonna add that missing context in for that. We're also gonna look at some of the latest examples that actually just came out in time for the show. So we're gonna see how the Harris campaign is utilizing ads to counteract negative news about them, and the tricky way that they're doing that. It's really, they got people that know what they're doing behind this, like that are really well seasoned in this space and are willing to sell themselves out to the establishment to get tyranny, to keep tyranny seated and to advance it. So we're going to show you what they're doing, and hopefully we can learn something from that about how we counter that. And I'll ask you guys the questions, is it is it something that we have to engage in ourselves in order to counter? Is this just the way the world is now, or is there a better way? That and many other questions will come to mind. But first, how many people out there that are listening and please participate understand what fifth generational warfare is, or any generational warfare? Oh, no worries, man. I'm starting a little late tonight. Just going to make sure I have everything lined up perfectly. as best as possible, I should say, for the show tonight. And I want to go ahead and jump on into it, but just let me know in the chat if you guys really just, say type one line, man. Do you know, have you heard of fifth generational warfare? In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll make it easy for you, and I'll engage with my audience with a poll. Do you know what fifth? Okay, there we go. I haven't done a poll in a while. Why not? And it's out. So if you know what it is, let me know. We'll check in. Well, let's get started here. But this is just a quick little video. It has captions and all that stuff. I don't know why people put captions on everything now, but I guess they do. But here we go. Fifth generational warfare.
Let's go. What is fifth generation warfare? To understand, let's look at the evolution of warfare throughout history. Traditionally, warfare has been characterized by physical force and the direct confrontation of opposing military forces. The first generation of warfare was defined by the use of mass manpower and simple weapons like swords and spears. The second generation saw the introduction of firearms and the rise of artillery. Third generation was marked by the use of tanks, aircraft, and other mechanized forces. The fourth generation of warfare, which emerged in the latter half of the 20th century, was characterized by a shift towards asymmetric tactics and the involvement of non-state actors, such as terrorist organizations and insurgent groups. Now, we find ourselves in the era of fifth-generation warfare, a form of conflict that represents a fundamental departure from the military engagements of the past. At its core, it manipulates and controls information, psychology, and technology. In other words, mind wars. Rather than relying on brute force and direct confrontation, fifth-gen warfare combatants seek to undermine their adversaries through a wide range of non-kinetic tactics, such as cyber attacks, psychological operations, exploitation of societal vulnerabilities, and emerging technologies. This happens by targeting critical infrastructure, disrupting communication networks, stealing sensitive data, using propaganda.
That's timely today, right? Hey, Verby, what's up? How you doing? Welcome to the show, NGOs. Hello, Daisy Girl Williams. Hello, all. Been offline due to device issues. I will be listening, but not in chat because I'm having signal problems. Okay. Well, we're happy that you're here, Daisy. Hope you get a lot out of it. Oh, now it's
propaganda, misinformation, education networks, stealing sensitive data.
Yeah, stealing sensitive data. Like everybody's like, there was some news today. I haven't followed up on it, but that everybody's like a billion records of that, which is more people than the United States, which is what I guess there are multiple records of each person. I don't know, but were released with social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, names, all that stuff. Supposedly, I don't know if it's been contained or what, but supposedly it was hacked and put out there, for the highest bidder to buy. I'm sure you guys have heard that today.
Propaganda, misinformation, and social media manipulation to sow discord, erode public trust, and influence decision-making. Additionally, by means of leveraging existing divisions, inequalities, and social tensions to destabilize and weaken target populations. Technologies are employing advanced AI, autonomous systems, and other cutting-edge tools to gain an asymmetric advantage. The goal of fifth-gen warfare is not to destroy the enemy's physical capabilities, but to erode their will to fight and an ability to function as a cohesive society. It's
a lot like ideological subversion, right? But without all the technology involved. It seems to be an evolution of that.
A form of warfare that is fought in the shadows, where the lines between military and civilian spheres are blurred, and the battlefield is everywhere. A concerning aspect of fifth-generation warfare, its ability to target individuals on a personal level, through sophisticated psychological techniques and exploitation of our own cognitive biases. Fifth-gen warfare combatants can manipulate our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, undermining our ability to think clearly and make rational decisions. This is why it's crucial to understand the nature of this and take proactive steps to fortify our minds against these insidious threats. With a deeper understanding of the psychological and emotional dimensions of warfare, we can better equip ourselves to navigate the challenges of this new era and emerge as victors.
We are all casualties of a kind of warfare that is so insidious you do not even know that you're a pawn and that you're being manipulated. You don't know that you're part of the warfare. This is called fifth generational warfare. It's a kind of warfare that happens in phases. And the first three phases don't happen in the physical world around us. They're happening within us, in our minds. When information makes you feel that you want to betray your truest nature, there's a good chance you're being manipulated. We've all heard that knowledge is power. Here's the question: where do you get your knowledge from? Go to alternative sources of information. The bonds of your society.
And then still check them. Yeah, I mean, just because you go to alternative sources of information doesn't mean that they're steering you in the right direction, as we talk about all the time here too. So be even more vigilant on that. Cool Gamer, what's up, man? How you doing? How you doing? Be even more vigilant on that too. You know, remember that there's people out there trying to manipulate you, trying to grift you inside and outside the establishment.
It can only be broken when you allow yourself to be manipulated.
Now that we have an idea what we're all dealing with, we can discuss preparing your mind for fifth generation warfare. The first step is to cultivate a strong sense of mental resilience and emotional fortitude. With the psychological and informational onslaught of fifth gen warfare, it's essential that we develop the ability to think critically, resist manipulation, and maintain a clear, grounded perspective. One of the key ways to do this is through the practice of mindfulness and meditation. By
I don't know about all that, but so far so good. Other than that,
training our minds to be present, focused, and aware, we can
I'd say like learn the trivium, understand what fallacies are, understand what false premises are. That's ground level. Then just continue to learn, but not to succumb to like any kind of bias confirmations and and knee-jerk reactions, assumptions. Always like I use like have a like a checklist, like it's in my head now, but it's like, you know, how many times does somebody ask me to take something on faith? How many, you know, in a presentation trying to convince me that something is real, right? You know, failed sources, you know, like people's like this whistleblower and that whistleblower and this ex-CIA person and that ex-CIA person and all this other stuff that is supposed to gain credibility. Like those are like, you know, generally yellow or red flags with me. So I kind of keep my eyes on things like that. And that kind of keeps you at least in the skeptical realm of things. Before you want to buy in, you want to make sure you can question to the void and make sure that you understand what you're buying into full-heartedly, because a lot of people are just trying to manufacture your consent for much worse things.
develop a greater sense of inner calm and clarity, which can help us navigate the chaos and uncertainty that infiltrates us. Through various branches of influential media from the tree of fifth gen warfare, mindfulness practices can also help us become more attuned to the subtle ways in which our thoughts and emotions can be influenced by external forces. By cultivating this
I didn't watch this part of the video. I just watched up to the explanation part, but I figured we can go through here and I'll just see what I think of this.
self-awareness,
Comment.
we can learn to recognize the signs of manipulation and take steps to counteract it. Another aspect of mental preparation is the development of critical thinking skills. In an era of information warfare, where misinformation and propaganda are rampant, it's crucial that we learn to scrutinize the information we consume and question the narratives that are being presented to us. This might involve learning how to identify logical fallacies,
There you go. See,
fact-checking claims, and seeking out multiple, reliable sources of information. It's also important to be aware of our own cognitive biases and the
yep.
ways
Though how your human brain OS works, like understand how the mind works, right? And then you understand how the people are trying to manipulate it. Like, realize we're an image-based OS operating system, right? Symbols to meanings to letters to words to sentences to statements to logic to rhetoric. I mean, you understand the building blocks, right? So they're always going to try to attack you at the root OS, right? They're always going to try to infect your mind that way. And we've explained that a lot about archetype crafting, like how they craft archetypes of people from evil archetypes, and that's how they run slander campaigns and try to diminish one's reputation. These are the things they're talking about here. So understand how your mind works, and you have a stronger defense.
in which they can shape our perceptions and decision-making. In addition to these cognitive strategies, it's also important to focus on the emotional and spiritual dimensions of our well-being. The psychological stress and uncertainty of 5 gigawatts can take a significant toll on our mental and emotional health,
Oh, that's kind of a leap right there with the 5G stuff, but
which
whatever.
is why it's crucial that we develop practices and rituals that can help us maintain a sense of inner balance and resilience.
Okay, well, that's cool. I'm gonna leave it right there. Because I think it's gonna get a little bit hippy dippy, but that's fine. We got the base understanding of what generational warfare is and why it's important to understand it, because it's constantly going on around us. And you're gonna see that very clearly in this next piece here, as we dive into the meat of the evening. All right. So tonight I'm going to feature Gary Franchi of Next News Network in a couple different pieces, because he's the one who kind of got this information, and put it together in a very nice way, and ones that I can respond to. And like I said, he did a great job breaking this and putting it into a nice package. But Gary is an old Ron Paul guy. He ran a super PAC during the Ron Paul days. That's where I know him from. He's been doing the Next News Network ever since. It's had its ups and downs, I would say, over the years, as far as I think it's doing some of its best work right now. But there were some times where I felt like it was a lot like every piece that was coming out was, this is the end of them. They're done now. It's like Obama's done now. It was like constantly like clickbaity, and I didn't feel like they ever paid off the titles, right? So there was a while that went on. I think he refreshed his crew, refreshed what he was doing, and now he's just killing it. So, and by the way, and another reason why I wanted to feature him tonight is, like, believe it or not, he's been demonetized for over 6 months. All right, and just to kind of give you an idea, the Next News Network has 2.22 million subscribers. Okay, and it's been going on for, I mean, probably 10 years or more, maybe. I don't know. It's been out there for a long time. I mean, he's been doing the good work for a long time, and they're demonetized. Like, they have no, I mean, for what? He's original as can be. So why would they demonetize him, right? Part of that warfare, isn't it, right? 'Cause he's reaching a lot of people and he's putting together good stuff. But that's hard to believe, right? So what's the real reason? What are they doing? I mean, we could see the way he runs his show. Why would you demonetize someone like this? Built a studio, largely invested in his company. He's got staff. I mean, this is a real media outlet right here, and for him to be demonetized still is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I definitely wanted to feature him and call that out. And I'd say sub to him for the information, but the I don't know what we can do to help him with the monetization issue, other than bring it to everyone's attention that this is BS, and it's just a good example of how they manipulate base channels, really, how they want to keep base channels. Like, once they realize they can never bring you back, and then once you leave the establishment narrative, you basically aren't retrievable, right? So it's about discrediting you and silencing you once you get outside of their narrative, instead of amplifying their message through you, right? They can't do that anymore. They can't win you back. They can't trigger you. They can only point to point to you and tell everybody that you're the enemy, right? So that's discrediting. Don't listen to them. They're off the rockers. And then the conspiracy grifters help them by just making us look all like we're insane flat earthers or something, right? Oh, but Shano, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Well, yeah, we're gonna see exactly how it's done tonight, man. I'm telling you, this stuff we're gonna go into is the essence of how it works. So when you see how it works, you'll see that it's not as people feel like it's personal, right? Like, they're like, oh, there was this clown that used to be on YouTube. He's on Rumble now. We hung around. He thought that everything was about him. He thought, oh, they did this to me. They don't want my message out. It's like, you don't have a message and you don't have a crowd, so why would they care? No, it's these things that we're going to talk about tonight, like, that keep small creators down. And it's not like they're saying, oh, that's winning reality, we're going to make sure we get him, right? It's more about, do I fall into a category? Is my content, in some way valuable, right? To add people. So there's that too. There's a couple different aspects of why you wouldn't be reachable or get out as much as other channels, and how they're boosted. We're going to go through all that tonight. So let's get rolling. Here we go.
Because we're about to blow the lid off one of the biggest political scandals of our time. We've got our hands on a secret Zoom recording that exposes how the Biden-Harris team manipulated voters about Joe's mental decline. From digital directors admitting to censorship programs to rapid response teams classifying inconvenient truths as disinformation, this story goes deep. So how far did they go to fool the American people? And what does this mean for the 2024 election? So buckle up, because this revelation will shake your faith in the entire political system.
Yeah, and like I said, this bit of information unveils their whole what they're doing, right? And I can expand on that with the possibilities behind what they're doing as well.
Now, in a world where truth is under attack, protecting your assets is more crucial than ever. And just as we're exposing the manipulation, surpassed $2,400 an ounce, signaling a weakening U.S. dollar. So don't let your hard-earned money be alarming story.
There you go.
Now, this comes to us from Matt Orfalia. Matt Orfalia.
All right. So I want you guys to keep, you saw the guy on the thumbnail, this guy down here, right? You see him down here in the corner right here. This is the main dude at the DNC running all this stuff. This is the main guy, Robert Flaherty, right? So they're all there to coordinate with him, obviously. So.
In a newly discovered Zoom recording, the Biden-Harris team reveals how they manipulated voters to think Biden's mental decline was disinformation. And of course, you know what happened at that debate. They could no longer hide it.
Yeah, but think about that right now, just like for a second. They have an active team. You see them right here. Four people can get a lot of work done in these days with the right tools and the right skills. Or 5 people in this case, right? 1 leader and a bunch of other people who specialize in different areas, probably is what we're looking at here, right? You don't have to have a room full, an army full of people. You just have to have the smarts and the right tools and technology to get the alerts to know when to react. So think about it like, as things come out, there's a crew of people who's on call, basically, or at the ready, right? Who are fully funded and paid for, right? That are ready to jump on anything. So when you look around now and you see the jump back responses on things, right? You got some faces to put with that when it's coming out of the DNC, Kamala Harris, ex-Joe Biden, whatever campaign, right? So, I mean, I'm sure there's others, right? There are probably some people that work for each one of them. Maybe. It doesn't really have to be that big these days. That's what technology does for you. It kind of makes things smaller. And the better you are at it, and these people I've listened, we're going to hear what they have to say in this video, but from listening to them, they understand what they're talking about. They're not chumps.
So here's the initial message. This was November. This goes back to 2020. This is how long they've been playing this game. Hope not hate. We're getting started with tonight's webinar. Hearing from Rob Flaherty and Bex Rink and Tim.
Honestly, the technology existed and the means and the will existed long before 2020. But this may be their big step up, ramp up operation. Maybe they didn't have the right person in there that knew how to do it. Now they do. So now they're branching out into this other world.
Timothy Durrigan about how the Biden campaign,
I don't know. I would say they did it before.
And countered disinformation during the presidential campaign.
I would say they've probably been doing this before this, but
now the Biden-Harris, this is I think 11-part tweet, 11-part thread. Biden-Harris digital director Rob Flaherty says the DNC created a
digital director. Like again, this guy is the dude who's okaying the strategies, who's developing the strategies, who's hiring the individuals, who's managing the individuals, who's delivering. And he's delivering up the ladder.
Program to detect, track, and censor what it deemed as misinformation, like Biden's mental decline. He calls it critical and one of the more important decisions made by the party in recent years. These are his own words. Let's listen.
And so, one of the smartest things that I think the party did itself was over the last couple of years, they actually invested in a team that Tim runs, and you'll hear from Tim, to detect and track misinformation and misinformation narratives in the sort of various corners of the internet, and then actually go out and flag it to platforms as a violation of their policy. And so that
did you hear that? They don't like your opinion. They don't like the facts you present. So they go to the platform and flag the content as a policy violation, a misinformation violation. What happens next? Accounts get deleted, terminated, suspended. All because they don't like what you're saying.
I mean, the stuff that they did was a critical.
I would like to dig into that more. What do you mean by go out and flag? And like, what do you have, like full teams of people doing this? Do you have it just individuals? I mean, individual flagging doesn't necessarily always equal the takedowns, right? If they're flagging it in a more personal way, like they have a personal contact inside, they're calling it in and not digitally doing it, or they're doing both, then it becomes more effective. But I'm kind of wondering what he meant by that.
Critical asset. That piece of infrastructure, I think, was one of the more important decisions. Stuff that they did was a critical asset. That piece of infrastructure, I think, was one of the more important decisions that was made in sort of the party space over the last couple of years.
So he must have answered to Tim.
Yeah, thanks for that. So it goes on. He presents emails that show Flaherty carrying out the supposedly counter misinformation program in the White House, pushing Facebook, you ready for this, to censor Tucker Carlson.
So it looks like they're pushing for like the big reaches, right? The individual with the biggest reach, the biggest influence.
For discussing certain jabs. And Tommy Lahren for her strong my body, my choice stance. Here's the email of them going after Tucker and Tommy because they don't like their position. My body, my choice. Isn't that like one of the mantras of the left?
Hold on.
Oh, not during COVID, though.
All right.
Despite leading the Biden White House efforts to censor misinformation when asked under oath to define misinformation, he refused. Really? You're out there fighting misinformation. You're telling all your underlings to fight misinformation, but yet you won't define it?
Yeah, they're not defining it, right? In
a hearing? Let's listen.
So, Mr. Flaherty, when the Biden administration told Americans that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus, were they guessing or lying?
I like that one. Guessing or lying.
Congressman, I think first of all, it's important to remember my role in this discussion, which is as a communicator on behalf of
you work for the Biden administration, you're assistant to the president. It's a simple question. When they told the American people that if you get the vaccine,
Congressman, again, I'm not here as a medical expert.
No, that's as common. Everyone knows that. Of course they can. I'm a simple question.
That sounds right to me.
You agree, Mr. Seligman? That's the common definition in the misinformation industry out there?
Yes.
Experts tell us. Misinformation, saying something that's not. I'm not asking that. I'm a simple question. What's misinformation?
Well, Congressman, I think it's important in the context of these.
Listen to that. Whenever they ask him a question, they try to give this bullshit intro. Just answer the damn question, man. It gets so frustrating.
How about you, Professor? Can you tell me what misinformation is?
He's so used to it. He's just like, okay, you're full of shit. Next.
I assume it would be saying something was completely untrue.
Saying something that's untrue, but with no intent. No intent. Disinformation, this is what all the misinformation experts tell us. Misinformation, saying something that's not accurate. Disinformation, saying something that's not accurate with the intent to mislead. Right?
That sounds right to me.
You agree, Mr. Seligman? That's the common definition in the misinformation industry out there?
Yes, my understanding.
Okay, that's the definition. So now, Mr. Floyd, how about this question? When the Biden administration told the American people that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus, was it misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, again, we were communicating the best medical research that we had at the time on behalf of
he starts with this excuse,
a group of some of the best doctors in the world in Atlanta and Bethesda.
When the Biden administration told the American people that the virus didn't come from.
Oh, man. Okay. So there you have it. Defaulting to talking points. Well, we had the best information at the time. And of course, we were all proven true. We were shouting from the rooftops from the moment that pandemic started. getting our content removed.
Well, no, they didn't have the best information, did they? They didn't have the best information. They had some information they were using, but it wasn't the best because it was wrong.
For speaking the truth. Oh, but they were just acting on the best information that they had. And now we're all proven true. But at the time, it was all misinformation or disinformation that they felt they had to suppress.
Right. So they're talking about like who gets to decide this, when, and how.
But in the Zoom call, he said misinformation narratives include conversations online about corruption or mental fitness or Biden's record on the crime bill, effectively defining misinformation as anything the Biden team found inconvenient. Oh, here we go.
We brought Becca on to sort of think through, okay, now that we have these misinformation narratives, what do we actually do? It is one thing to know that there is a lot of conversation online about corruption or mental fitness or any of these things, or the vice president's record on the crime bill, which was sort of a controversial piece of legislation in the early 90s. But it was another to go, okay, now what? We brought Becca on.
Thanks for that. Becca, he says, we brought Becca on. Well, Becca is Biden's rapid response director, later the White House deputy director of digital strategy, also classified talk of Biden's mental decline as disinformation around his mental acuity.
Is that too fast? Let me know.
His mental, we saw.
I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. Some of these people talk fast. A lot of tech people talk fast. And can you guys hear it okay? Because we're coming through audio to audio. I'm going to boost it. Just let me know if it's too much. I want you guys to be able to hear what these people are saying.
A huge amount of volume and a lot of impact on narratives like Joe Biden was being manipulated by the radical left and disinformation around his mental acuity.
So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to classify that as misinformation. Of course, we know the pressure from the radical left is being exerted on the Biden administration. Oh, but it's misinformation. The Biden-Harris team micro-targeted voters. You ready for this? Exposed to the
This is micro-targeted. Listen.
Information, aka reality, of Biden's mental decline. They use psychographic targeting, a tactic that Cambridge Analytica was highly scrutinized for after the 2016 election. Let's hear what they have to say.
Essentially, the pitch was that we were going to combine micro-targeting, which had existed in politics, which was, in part...
I mean, you just got to laugh when you see something like this. It's
my background, but bring on boards new constructs from psychology, so that we wouldn't just be targeting you as a voter, we'd be targeting you as a personality.
There we go. So this is where we get to talk about personas or personalities. This is like, these are things that were developed for sales and marketing, right? To help better target certain types of buyers for certain types of things, right? And you can use that in any industry that you're in, whether you're a business to business type of company where you're selling your business to another business, or you're selling like whatever you do, right? Your product to another business, or your product to a consumer, right? So you got what they call B2B, business to business, and you got B2C, which is business to consumer, right? So it just depends on who you're selling to. And so that goes into your sales and your marketing, and who you're marketing to in order to produce a sale. So in this case, we're going to start talking about personas or personalities, right? So think of a persona as like a group personality, right? But that's where they got this is where this lady comes from, right? Like even in her title, this is her background. So she's applying these sales and marketing techniques to politics. That's what I was trying to wanted you guys to see, that this is an evolution of using the tools and the data that's already there for a particular purpose, right? And repurposing those tools and data for political gains, right? And as we get going here, we'll go even deeper into how they're doing that.
Targeting you as a voter, we'd be targeting you as a personality.
We targeted folks based...
Targeting you! Targeting...
That's not... This is the part where I really wanted to help out with the report is that this is nothing new. This is nothing new. And so I wanted to really get into that. And I can see already that T-Rex Trucking is shooting for sponsorship with tonight's stream with T-Rex Trucking more. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Wait. These isoats are the people the Twitter files were talking about. These people, I hate this timeline. Me too. Hey, Mimsy, what's up? What's up? I don't know anything about what you're talking about there, but if you want to elaborate, we can definitely have that discussion. The let me see, make sure I put your little heart on it. There you go. Love it. Okay. And but yeah, I'm just trying to explain that the reason why people do persona marketing, right? Based on that is to better target people with the stuff that they want, right? It's a way to cut down the noise. Like there's white hat out there. I know people hear this and are like, oh my God, this is the end of time. But honestly, the mechanisms in the sales marketing approach of today is created, right? Is created to cut down the noise because there's so much noise. Is it better to get spammed by a million things you don't want, or to precisely get some ads or get some notifications from things that you would be interested in that really fit who you are? That's the idea, because the sales and marketing and advertising stuff isn't going away, right? So you could have complete noise, which is everything at once all the time, and then nobody gets heard, right? Which hurts the economy in a way back way, right? And I'm not talking from sales and marketing. I'm talking from a legitimate business standpoint, what these tools and this data was made for, right? And what they're doing is they're taking people from that industry and now putting them into politics, and they understand how to use the tools and the data, and now they're repurposing that. And this is the digital warfare that I'm talking about, and it's part of the fifth generational warfare. It fits into that. Not that they've been recruited to do this particularly because of fifth generational warfare, but that it fits into the any more than a terrorist group was, right? For fourth generational, it's just something that naturally is recurring because of the battlefield itself, the makeup of the battlefield itself. That's the way I see it, at least. But now they're bringing people in to understand how all these things work, right? And they're building programs and campaigns and so on that take what you would normally use to target market better, right? And they're using it to market content, or they're using it to target content to individuals. So they're making a personality type, a persona type, right? It's just like if I were to make a persona type out of a truck driver, right? And Twitter files were saying that they were directed by people within the government to take down and not promote people who promote misinformation. Yeah, no, these are the people in the Biden-Harrison campaign, right? DNC, that are going to use this to counter, like they're using it as a methodology to counter, any type of news that they don't like about her, including news from mainstream media, which we're going to see later. Later on, we got them actually running ads to counter negative news, and I'm going to show you that, even coming off the mainstream media and how they're doing it. So, but for the average person, that they don't understand what personas are. So, like if I was to say truck drivers, right? So people that were in the trucking industry, that would be a persona type, right? So you can go like that. So I want to reach truckers because of supply chain information, or I want to push messages to them. I could put them in this trucker persona, right? And I'm going to approach them the same way. I'm going to approach them as a trucker would be approached, right? More their language, more their imagery, more of that stuff like that. That's relatable. So they feel that the message is for them, and that's really what it's about. Right. So, but they're taking that persona type that I may use this because T-Rex needs to know about things for his truck. And I want to send him ads. I want to send him products that are going to help him, his life as a trucker. Right. because that's what he does. So it's an industry persona, right? It's a career persona, a job persona, whatever you want to call it, right? And I'm going to push to him things that he may need for his truck, things to make his life better inside of his truck when he's traveling, parts for his truck, different types of whatever upkeeps for his truck, down to a brand of oil, whatever oil or transmission fluid or whatever the frick, a damn pan so he can cook on his engine. I don't know, right? But that's what a persona can do, right? Is it can segment a whole database of people into a certain category so that you make sure that what they get is relative to them, so they're not getting a bunch of noise. Like he's not getting ads for sewing machines, but he's a truck driver, right? Or he's not getting bombed with emails about things that don't pertain to him, like property tax, right? So that's what he's talking about here. But I get why it sounds so shocking to people that are hearing it for the first time, because they're like, what? They're going down after my personality type. Man, it's already out there. What I'm trying to show you tonight is they're repurposing it, right? So let's continue.
You as a personality, your little Facebook posts, so troublesome.
Right. So like on your Facebook post or but it's also
full of truth.
It's also like your like
your
like
darn tweets.
This music. I like these books, right? So you like these books. They all kind of fall in the horror category. So you might see more ads for horror books because you like horror books, right? So now you know when the latest Stephen King comes out or whatever you're into, right? And that's what the whole thing about your about page on Facebook is. You're just basically telling them everything that you like, so that you can literally be. It's like you're telling your friends, right? Oh, hey, look, I'm all into this stuff. This is me, right? But that's the data they take to make sure that they don't send you romance book ads when you really like horror, right? Because that's a waste. That's a waste of money and time, and it's a waste of bandwidth on your end, because you're seeing stuff that you're just not even interested in. But if you see that new Stephen King book, you might click on that and be like, you know what? I'm going to make sure I get this when it comes out. And is that a bad thing, right? Is that a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing, because when you realize what it could be like without it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, the bad part of this is when they take it and they politicize it and they turn it into a weapon against you, right? So now, instead of cutting down on the noise in your life, right, they're ramping up the noise, the propaganda in your life this way. So we're going to see this as we go along here, and more information throughout this report here.
In your opinion, so full of truth. Your darn tweets and your opinions and your facts. Micro targeting.
Right. So that's what they're doing, right? They're able to look at people's posts and what they're posting. They're taking the same technology that's behind there, that's trying to serve proper ads, right? That's how they're paying for. That's how you're getting this free service. Remember, if it's free, you're the product. So so you get this great social media platform that you enjoy using for whatever reason, and they get to serve ads to you, and that's the agreement you're basically making by using their stuff for free, right? And then you know how it goes. If you want a premium membership, you can cut out even more noise by going ad free. So you could pay to have the ads taken off, and so they're making their money that way too. Let's see.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's shocking to some people. That's why I wanted to put it out there before you hear it from someone that doesn't understand how it works in the background, and you're like, whoa, this is something new. No, it's been around forever. People have been marketing based on personas or certain segments of data, some demographics forever. And in the white hat realm of it, it's a good thing. But when someone takes it and misuses it, it can become a very bad thing. So they can keyword or link, link off. They can keyword on titles, on text, whatever, right? So if they're doing this on a certain platform, and it just is, it's whatever platform, wherever you're posting, they can then say, okay, well, this person falls into this category. We don't have them we have them as a middle or even a Democrat voter, but if if they're clicking on this or you're asking these questions, we want to serve them some content that gives our what we want them to think involved in that, right? So we'll see how that works as we evolve here.
Okay, let's see what she's got to say.
As we move on.
Online behavioral cues, building out personas.
Targeting you as a personality.
Personas based on the type of content they were consuming, what they were searching, the kinds of websites they were visiting.
We could.
Yeah, and that's going on in every way all the time. I mean, but see, just forget they're talking about politics here and just think it's talking about sales and marketing, and you're going to see that this stuff is already there. It's already been going on. So this isn't anything new. They're just repurposing the tools and the data for political means now. So instead of it being about trucking or about, school teaching or whatever, it's now about politics. So when they say they're building that profile, right? That profile is like, okay, a stack of URLs, a stack of keywords, a stack of interest, right? And then there's a lot of other information like demographic, location, whatever. And that's if they know who you are, right? That's if they know who you are. And they can do that, right? So coming off of anything that has your name, your full name, any traceability to you. So if that's not there, then think about it like this. And this is be countermeasures later on, is that when you create a different profile, right? It chops it up and chops it up and chops it up. So you could have like 5 different profiles on there, and they never correlate the two unless you do something to correlate them. And then all of a sudden they can find a way to merge it if they're that advanced, if they're actually listening for that and they have the right operational programs in place to take that when it occurs, the correlations occur, and merge profiles. But I don't think these people are doing that. I think what they're doing is they're just going off of whatever profiles are being built. So even if you're going by a pseudonym, right, a different name, a secondary name, secondary email addresses, and you're using that mostly, right, you're going to get content from that profile, but they don't know that's you, right? They don't know that's you unless you then add your address, phone number, any way that it could be correlated to your true persona or your true profile, right? Your true profile. Well, with your real name, your real address, your real phone number, social security number, whatever. Well, not social security number, but phone number, address, location, whatever, right? So the counter is to just not be yourself online, right? And then when you are yourself online, just minimize that towards just the things you need to do it for. Don't be social with your real name and your real information, because then that's when you can fall in these political traps, right? Otherwise they're going to be sending it to your pseudonym or your fake identity or whatever, your online, your anonymous identity, put it that way. Let's see. I'm gonna talk to the crowd here for a second. Enya, what's up? How you doing? Man, the Stephen King tweets are breaking my heart. So I'll explain it better as we go along. There's going to be more information that comes up. I always find it funny that my dad doesn't think that the internet knows about him. Like, they might not know him by name, but they have built a ghost profile about him. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, ghost. You can call it a ghost profile. But he's still going to get served those ads based on his search history under that profile, right? And that's what it's about. And so if that's what you're using and they're just trying to influence you, that's good enough, right? That's good enough for them. And so that's what I'm trying to, that's where I kind of walk it back a little bit as far as the severity of it. It's like, it's not you individually, right? It's you in a group. It's you in a group of people. And where do you fall in that group, and what's the purpose of that group in their minds, right? The bucket to counter narrative, the bucket to try to win back. There's win back, you can try to win people back. You try to, you want to counter the narrative they're pushing. You want to counter, it goes down to that, right? That's why you don't see so many personal attacks as you see counter narratives. Let's see. I mean, they can merge profiles based on the way you move your mouse, based on that's bullshit. Based on the location data, based on how quick you, that's no. That's not even practical. That's not even practical. Merging data profiles is a bitch, first of all, right? Because what are you going to overwrite when? and then you have to actually line it up. So it's not like that. They're not, when you think that it's about based on your moving your mouse in a certain location, I think that's jumping the shark there. Facebook keeps identifying even for people who have never been on their site based on tracking pictures, posts of anyone who's on the site. Facebook keeps identities for, yeah, they can be like anonymous identities. Like if you go to a website, right, but you don't fill out any information, and you don't give them an email address, you don't identify yourself, you don't self-identify, right? All they have is that you an IP address visited the site. It'll save that as an anonymous visitor, right? To the visitor, you're in visitor status. That's like before you get to be known, right? So visitors unknown to, okay, you've now identified yourself. Now you're known. Now you're in the database as known, right? So you filled out a form, you did it, where you entered your email, you made a profile, for that site. Yep, you're known now, right? And and then what they can do then is take your previous anonymous profile, and it just fills in. It just fills in. So you're not really merging, you're updating. The big difference between that and trying to merge two duplicates or something like that, right? Or it's just a lot can go wrong in that as well. So it becomes a very manual process in some senses. But when you're talking about merging in known profiles to unknown or anonymous, like you just visited and now you have signed up, they can connect those dots as long as the IP addresses are the same, inferred locations, things like that, right? Wolfram, this is a violation of the 4th Amendment, spying on Americans, also geared towards Chinese social credit score system. Oh, you talk about the Facebook thing. It's just anonymous data, right? It's anonymous data. And the pushback on that being it's constitutional is the fact that you go to use the service, right? That's when you kind of waive the 4th Amendment. If I'm understanding how you're using that right. Yeah, and as far as the Chinese social credit score goes, yeah, this is the back end of it is all that, right? So when they're building these bigger social profiles on you that aren't related to sales and marketing, right? That's when you're getting into this credit system, this social credit system, right? That's when it's becoming very Orwellian. That's when it's becoming very Big Brother-ish, very not where we want to go. Not where we want to go. But when you go to a site, you're that site's owned. It's like walking into a storefront and you're on camera, right? It's kind of the same thing. So collecting anonymous data, you don't do anything with it unless somebody becomes a unknown, because unknown is now a lead, right? It's a potential sale, and that's what it's meant to do. That's what it's meant to do. Let's see, the hippies in the late 90s were freaking right. Who is that? What are you talking about? Hippies. About what? I mean, again, it's the choice between that and being completely plastered with ads and nonsense and noise and spam. These are all the way that these things work now is supposed to be trimming down your nuisances in people's lives. Of course, now when you get bad actors like this guy involved, they can take that and they can turn it into something very, self-serving and driving a political agenda. Social credit started here, not China. I don't know about that. I've never heard that one. Let's see. China has crazy control on how their system works. I helped run a thrift store with my family and a Chinese man. He said he knew a guy in China who did a bunch of work in buildings. He also owned a window company. Pretty sure he was funneling money. Well, he got caught cheating on his wife with a man. They refused to allow him to get paid for work already done, supplies already given. This is a very interesting story. It took an interesting turn there at the end. Constitution only limits government. Welcome to fascism. Yeah, it's supposed to be limiting government, isn't it? So you can contract away almost anything. Probably. All right, let's get into this.
Build a psychological profile
Holy cow.
of each voter in a particular region.
We built out different.
Which is like it's so easy that it's not even funny. It's just because it's just data collection, right? And like I said, but what do they use that for and how? They're looking at things that you would normally use for sales and marketing, like books read, links. But they take it a step further with, for those that are looking for keywords in certain areas and posts and whatnot. That's a whole nother level that's beyond the sales and marketing. Sales and marketing isn't doing that. Sales and marketing is just looking at what product interests you have, what for a consumer and for business, what industry you're in, how big your company is, what are your needs, and that kind of stuff, right? So you have to understand, like, companies like HP and others, they sell big data products to companies that have huge networks, right? So they want you to consider their product when you're getting ready to spend $1 million on a bunch of storage area servers.
Personas for the different parts of our key audiences, both persuadable and our supporters.
Persuadable and supporters. She just let something go right there. That's one of the categories. That's a segment that they have. So she just told you something. That persuadable. What does persuadable mean? That means that they think they still have a chance to win you back. That's the win back segment I was talking about, right? So I knew they probably had something like that in there because they had to have a middle of the road. So they're feeding one. Well, I'll let it continue.
And then targeted them with custom campaigns. So
custom campaigns, right? So what that means is that because they were in the persuadable category, right? They created content to persuade them back to their side, right? And when they fell into that segment, right, that data segment that made them persuade, they said that they were part of the persuadable segment. Just imagine a big chunk out of a database, like a pie piece, and that's your persuadable piece, right? Now, when you run this campaign, right, like what a campaign is basically just at a time and date, contents can be pushed out either via email, ad, whatever, towards this group of people, that segment. So literally take that segment and turn it into a list, if you want. You can call it a list, right? And they know just to send this particular content to that particular segment. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's the way that's what she just said, right? In so many words. Most people are like, I'm not going to hear what that means. That's why I wanted to go over this with you. I wanted to be your window into the true meanings behind what these people are saying. They're still doing exactly what they're saying, but I wanted you to understand what it meant because it helps you have a better mental image of how things work, right? And that could end up helping you in some way down the road. Let's see. None of it is good. Even your white hat, we used to get pissed that government recorded books from the library. Now we're just weak in our life. Okay, so how are you going to deal with a sales? How are you going to deal with a free market economy that uses advertising and marketing for everything, right? Would you rather? White hat means you're just basically trying to make it so it's not spammy, scammy, and noisy, right? So people who work on this are trying to streamline it, make sure that you're not getting ads for big data servers when you really want ads for Furby dolls, right? And it's just a way to cut down the noise. I mean, there's so many companies around the world, online and different places. And of course, with all those people, there's a million scammers involved in that too, right? There's a million different. So how do you think? Should we just stop all business or what? Because there has to be something. Should we stop the digital age? And we can't go back. So I mean, I get what you're saying. And it feels like I'm sure people feel like it's intrusive in some way. For the most part, I've always tried to say this. It's not supposed to be that. It's not supposed to be intrusive. Now people are selling your data. What does that mean? Right? Well, there's good guys and there's bad guys out there, right? There's good guys. These guys are the bad guys. That's why I'm pointing out how they're misusing the technology and the data. But I'm trying to explain to you like what the purpose of the technology is for. Right. And if it wasn't there, what would it look like? And how would you propose us to live in a world where you don't have people trying to cut down the digital noise in your life, right? And turn it all off. Okay, that's fine. But again, you got to realize You know, now you have door-to-door salesmen knocking on your door constantly, because that's what it used to be, right? You have, you know, you got 50 freaking flyers in your mailbox. Now you got 500. You know, they're gonna advertise to you some way. They're gonna market to you some way, or they're gonna go out of business, right? So it's a lot to think about. But I mean, you know, what I'm trying to point out is that that's not the same as what they're doing with this. They're just using the same methodologies, probably a lot of the same tools, and they're using data in this way so that you could understand how they're trying to manipulate and steer perception for political gains. Let's see. I'd wonder if I'd be considered persuadable because I watch news from both sides. Perhaps, maybe. I'm persuadable. I'm working on it, but I'm probably prime cult material. I didn't think so a while back, but I was duped for a long time, so I don't know. Yeah, it just depends. It just depends. You probably are. Like someone like me, no, but you probably are. You know, but it doesn't matter. You know, it could be like, you know, one profile of me says no, not persuadable, and another one does. They don't care. They're just going to try to put you in that category. The separation between persuadable means you're not bought in, because they got a whole nother segment for the people that are supporters, right? She said it too: supporters, persuadable, you know, no wins or whatever. You know, this lost. They could put it lost. You know, not reachable, unreachable. Probably what it is, unreachable, right? So that way they're targeting their campaigns the right way. And then people like us, you know, we don't get to see what they're actually up to, right? But people that aren't like us do, and they, you know, wonder why they keep falling for this shit or where they get these things from. They're constantly being bombed with it. It's a total misuse of the technology, but it's not illegal, and that's the whole thing. So we'll have to get to that part as we go. See, advertising exists for billions of years. We didn't need targeted. Well, okay, I wouldn't say advertising's existed for billions of years, but I guess you're just trying to be. I get you're trying to say it, but no, I mean honestly, it cut. You don't realize how much it's cut down on the noise. I mean, and it didn't need to be targeted. It was blanketed. So it's shotgun versus sniper rifle, and when you're just blanketing everything, you can't hear a thing. It would just. You ever seen those sci-fi like dystopic futures where there's advertising signs on everything, everywhere, all over the place? That's a world without targeting. So Coca-Cola putting their ad on Times Square is a shotgun method. Now targeted advertising is all about turning us into pay pigs. A long time ago, dude. Long time ago. And yeah. So I mean, it's just about, okay, so children's toys versus, you know, different departments. It's, you know, you walk into a store, it's targeted. You know, you just don't realize it. It's just that, you know, you have different aisles for different things, right? It's organized. So, but this aisle is targeted for children. Obviously, got children's toys on it. That's just another way of looking at it. But yeah, I mean, Coca-Cola is a product they want to market to everybody, right? They market this to everybody. So yeah, they put it out there. They have enough money to do it. They got the Master Blaster ad campaign rolling. Everybody's singing, I wish I had a Coca to smile. All right. They do all that stuff. But this is digital marketing. It's digital marketing. So in this sense, right, you could be, would you rather see ads that you wanted or ads that you didn't want? You know, it just depends, right? I'd like to see no ads. That's why I pay the premium price for YouTube and I don't get any ads. So you can do that too. You can choose to block it out. I always turned off commercials. Anything we were watching a football game, my kid was growing up, I turned off commercials down, turn them off. I would never let it get to them. So there's things that you can do, but this shit ain't going away. We live in a consumer society. In fact, what was that documentary that we watched on Old School Watch Party Sunday that was going through our consumer society? I want to say Century itself, but I think that was more about the psychological industry, the psychology, institutionalized psychiatry industry. But I swear to God, there was another one that was more about advertising and stuff. God, we watched so many. It's hard to say. I'll have to go back through and find it. But they talked about how the evolution and turning people into consumers that happened a long time ago, right? This is the digital age of this. So, you know, all that stuff that you're talking about, that happened already. And now this is the digital age and how people are using data. Winning, my son used you in an argument a few days ago. He wants to be a YouTuber. I said no, because he can't have his face all online and he can't be alone that long on the internet. He said, you know, you don't have to show your face. What about winning reality? I could just use a cat face. Nice, nice. Junk mail keeps the postal system in business. That's sad. You can also refuse solicitors on your property. Yep. And sometimes they'll listen. Now you have no property lines to them getting to you. That's true. That's true. Let's see. Thank you so much for that, Mimsy. And everybody listen to the elephant. Elephant knows lots. Elephants knows lots. Memento Mori. I automatically assumed everything is BS until someone provides enough evidence. I'm not easily persuaded. There you go. That's the way to be. Let's see. Digital marketing is the reason we are here. Targeted ads, silos, echo chambers is all form of digital marketing. Digital advertising. I would say targeted ads, yes. Silos and echo chambers, I wouldn't put in digital advertising, but but targeted ads, yes. I mean, I'm being very technical with this, right? I'm trying to just be as matter of fact as possible. But I would say, yes, targeted ads are certainly part of digital advertising. And they can lead to, they can lead you to, say, perhaps like in this case over here, they can lead you to echo chambers and silos, but they're not what makes echo chambers and silos. So I guess that's the best way I can respond to that. See, idiocracy? Yeah, right. Okay, let's go.
Supporters, and then targeted them with custom campaigns.
So you've harvested my data and then you've used that to target me in ways that I can't see and that I don't understand.
Yeah, so we would know what kinds of messaging you would be susceptible to, including the framing of it, the topics, the contents, the tone, whether it's scary or not, that kind of thing. So what you would be susceptible to and where you're going to consume that. Okay.
So that's interesting. That's understanding where to push. But what he's talking about is in terms of how to come across to you. Okay, you guys remember I talked to you about the buyer's journey, right? The buyer's journey, the buy-in journey, the believer's journey, right? And that's the way you want to get with people in terms of versus the stages of belief, like the stages of grief, the like people push back when it comes to belief systems, right? And you need to get them on the buy-in journey to actually be able to make a new decision. So that's the messaging he's talking about. Like, where are you? Like, how can you be reached? At what level? If you're just in an awareness state, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but awareness state, right? Then you're going to get content that's either going to be more awareness about the topic. Like you just came into knowledge about it, right? You're going to get more content about that and perhaps some research to go with that, because that's where you are on the journey, right? And they're going to know that by how much awareness content that they've provided, that they're aware of, that you've consumed or into research. Now, once you've had enough research, it's time for consideration. Then it's time for decision. And this is like all basic modern marketing, how it's marketed to you. Like, what stage of the buyer's journey are you in? Again, another way to cut down on the noise and the spam, if it's done correctly for sales and marketing purposes, right? Like, I'm trying to sell you a furnace, right? And I know you're in the market for a furnace because you came by my furnace website and you started poking around and you signed up for a either a free consultation, or you signed up for got on there and you wanted to download a PDF about the latest furnaces that I have for you, right? And that's how you got into the system. Now you have an awareness, you have a need, right? But you need more research about why my furnaces are going to be right for you, right? And then when I send you that research and you open it and you interact with it, right, you get notifications back when that happens. And that's how you build, that's what builds a profile, builds a score, right? And then when you score high enough in this category called research, then the content changes, right? And now you're getting more consideration content, which is like, have you considered that there's never any better time than now to get this furnace? Or have you considered winter's coming? Or have you considered that, why we're better than the other people. This is why, and then you get some comparison stuff. Now it's time to make a decision. Can we book an appointment? We get free estimates. We get free consultations. Just sign up. We'll come by. It takes 10 minutes or whatever. We'll take a look at it and let you know what we think. So you get those kind of things, right? So people will engage in the buying process with you. That's the sales and marketing side of it. What they want to do on the other hand is they want to reach you, and they want to reach people that are reachable, are persuadable, right? At a certain stage of an issue. So if you're just aware for the first time or early in that, Biden's got cognitive problems, or, that Tim Walz stolen valor, whatever, right? Whatever the hot topic is, right? They want to know, and, they want to show you, okay, they want to be able to counter that narrative immediately. And that's what they're doing. That's what I'm talking about. This is how far they're going. And I'm trying to tell you that they don't sleep, they don't stop, and that they are way ahead of us in a lot of ways. And when they're able to manage perceptions on this level, right, it's the battle we're fighting. So I'm kind of this is what it's about. It's about unveiling that usage of this, right? And that the infrastructure for it and the process and methodologies and all the tools you need and data is already out there because of other reasons. Now they're just repurposing the tools and the data for political gains, right? So that's what I'm talking about right here. And then when you know how everything works, you can start doing things to kind of take yourself out of these segments if you want, right? It's not going to affect people like us though. And that's the thing. It's like we're already based, we're already out of the establishment narrative. We need to understand the condition of what they're doing to the average everyday person and how they're going about doing this, right? And you can bring a lot of clarity and have those moments of clarity with people when you can demonstrate it in real time on their own machines, right? If you understand this stuff well enough and people are having an argument about you, whether they're being manipulated by digital media or not, right? And you can sit down and go, bang, 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 watch this. This is how it works. All of a sudden, they know that you have knowledge they don't, right? And you're not coming at them from a my side versus your side thing, as in everybody has concerns about digital privacy, right? Everybody has concerns about how things are being used, especially when they don't understand how they work. And so that's the purpose of going through this tonight with you, is to actually help you really get the understanding of it. Whether you philosophically disagree with it or not, whether you think it all needs to go in the garbage or not, it's here right now. This is how it works. And I just want to make sure that you guys understand it. And I'm going to show you some real life examples that are going on right now with the Harris campaign and how they're using ads to counter narratives.
And then how many times do we need to touch you and where you're going to consume that? And then how many times do we need to touch you with that in order to change how you think about something?
Okay, so touches are different places that you're going to see the same messaging, right? Digital ads, email, anything like that. It's generally there's going to be one of those two. They may be more sophisticated than that. Like if they're really sophisticated, I can get Machiavellian here and say that, you would like the old days we used to do, react to posts manually, right? So we did the same thing back in the Ron Paul days, my group, encountering disinformation about Ron Paul or conspiracy grifts of the day, right? We go right to the sources and just destroy the sources. So that was like comment battles. That's back when you could do things like that. You could post links and drop, massive amounts of information in a post, and reach people that were being influenced by commenting, looking for conversations in the comments. You could actually reach people that way. So that was like, something we came up with a long time ago just to counter the establishment narrative, right? So now they're using the same, even more advanced technology, more hands-off technology, to systems that can be reach more people with less people, right? To do the exact same thing, but in the other way around, right? So to push out establishment propaganda, to counter the pushback against that propaganda, that those disinformation campaigns that they're running, right? Or whatever a politician's trying to cover up, hide, whatever, right? So now you're seeing that they're engaging in this. The DNC, you see their team, you see the people, you hear the terminology they're using, right? There's all evidence that this is happening and has been happening for a while. So we're pulling back the veil on this digital warfare, and so that's why I'm explaining this to you as well, and then to let you know this is the way that it's working, and this is that fifth, you can call it fifth dimensional warfare if you want. I would say that it's definitely a type of digital warfare. Creepy, he says touchy, right? Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called a touch. It's called a touch, man. It's like, they get how many touches do you need to become aware of something, like, okay, look, this ad right here, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he's using the same things he's kind of appalled by, and then we all do, right? But but they're using it for political gains. He's using it to keep his business sponsorship, going. But this ad right here at the bottom, right? Speak to their investors, call a specialist today. Was that Global Gold, right? There's an ad right on his layout, which is fine. He has to support his business, right? But that's a touch, right? So you're getting touched. You're if you don't know what Global Gold is, you're now aware that you can, of them, you see the name, the brand, right? And now you can actually call this number to speak to their investment specialist if you're really interested in gold. Now, how many times have you been touched by a gold ad, today? See, with knowledge of this, you can actually start to see it yourself. So I'm pulling back the veils for clarity, right? So now that you know this, you'll be like, how many times did I get touched by a certain type of ad thing, right? Those are touches, right? So how many touches he's talking about politically? How many touches where do they have to come in contact with you with this message, right? In order to maybe perhaps persuade you to click through, click in, to pay it mine, or maybe just hit you with the headline, right? A lot of times the people in the establishment narrative, they're very persuaded just by headlines. If it's triggering, if it's appalling, if it's if it's something that's going to make them react, and I bet you that's a lot of the things that they use, right? Is they want to look for those trigger words, those trigger points to get people to bounce into their content and to read the counter narratives, right? Are the propaganda. That's the way they're doing it with the people that are asleep, they're sleepwalking through life, social media, young people that aren't sophisticated, haven't had time to learn this, whatever it is, right? They're counting on the ignorance for people to participate. And for this to work, that's what it takes, right? Each and every one of you here tonight is getting the deep dive professional level lesson in this, right? You're going to be, you're going to be bulletproof for the rest of your life. And somewhat speaking, you're going to be aware enough to see what's going on around you in terms of digital influence, right? If you're not already, you'll now advance that knowledge, right? If you are already, you'll advance your knowledge. If you're not already, you'll begin to notice it. You won't be able to help the fact that you notice it. So come back and talk to me about it. I love talking about this stuff, especially when people do have those, have those moments. I'm sure. The pink anime doesn't help. Yeah, right. The pink anime hair doesn't help. This guy's right. He doesn't care, right? He doesn't care that he's doing this to people. And the smoking baby t-shirt, I know, it's just classless, right? Buy gold once, then they'll never leave you alone. They'll sell your data. Right, you're now a gold buyer, right? You're now a gold buyer, I mean, obviously, hopefully, these smaller groups like this don't sell your data off, but it's not really them that does the data selling. It's the kind of the in betweeners, and you can get into that, like who is selling their databases to people. Most people like gold. These people like Global Gold. Like, why would they want to sell their database over to their competition so they can market to them? That's like, your database is like your lead database is like gold. I mean, it's like gold. It's like platinum. It's like everything. It's the lifeblood of your business. Why would you sell off your leads to somebody else if you already have them? They're gold buyers, just so they can be marketed to by somebody else and have your customers stolen, have your potential income gone away. No way. Most of the people there that figured that out, they're getting that data from other sources other than the gold buyers, the gold companies themselves. It's kind of in between stuff, right? And they can figure out if you're a gold buyer in other ways. Like, let me give an example. And only do this if you're willing to put up with this, right? Go type in, go to Google and wait. Let me finish before you do this, right? Go to Google and type in new Windows for home, right? And watch what happens. I'm telling you, that's one of the ones that'll get you like so fast, dude. You'll have phone calls, you'll have emails, you'll have ad serves like you wouldn't believe. They hit you with the new Windows because everybody needs them, right? But not many people can afford them. So new Windows, man, boy, you'll get hammered. Don't ever, if you sign up for one thing, everybody will call you. I mean, dude. So there's things like that, right? Where they're waiting to pounce just because of your interest, and they already have ad serves set up, ready to go. And so how do they do that, right? Well, it's a what we call like a trigger response, right? They're basically waiting for the interaction. So the interaction could be a click, it could be a view, whatever. And then they're so tuned up that when you do, boom, your whole world changes. And again, you can counter your algorithms by deleting your search histories, deleting cookies on browsers, and in YouTube. If you're getting served up a bunch of content you don't want, go look, and you may have clicked or moused over a video and it's in your watch history. So clear out your watch history and watch what happens to your algorithm. That's where it all comes from. I know some people think they got it all figured out. They got big educations from fancy schools. They didn't do anything that has to do with marketing or algorithms or technology, but they got it figured out that it has to do with the person. No, it doesn't. It has to do with your watch history. All right. Here we go.
Wow. That is a straight up political psyop. I've said it here 100 times. The feed, the narrative that you are fed in your timelines on your Facebook page, your Instagram.
Hold on.
I've said it here. That is a
think about something. We need to touch you with that in order to change how you think about something.
Touch, awareness, research, consideration, decision. That's what he means. That's how he's going to persuade you. They're going to give you the awareness content, the research content, so that they're providing. So whatever they consider that to be right now, doesn't mean that it's honest or anything like that. It means they want you voting Democrat.
Wow. That is times. The feed, the narrative that you are fed in your timelines on your Facebook page, your Instagram, any of your social properties are all being manipulated.
Yeah, you see, when you have Instagram with Facebook with whatever else, there's all different places they can find you, right? So they know that all these profiles are connected, so they can serve ads or serve content propositions across those different platforms. So like you use suddenly, why am I seeing ads for this thing all of a sudden, right? That's the same. It's the same principle, but now with politics.
Manipulated to give you the reality that they construct and the reality that they want you to see. The online dossier of every single one of us is being used to manipulate our political positions. And that's why we need to be fully aware of what is going on so we can combat it, so we can put up our personal defenses, so we can practice discernment. This is a very serious info war. Okay, so Rinkovich, we targeted folks based on online behavioral cues, building out the personas. Now, I think this might be a rehash of what was what we just saw.
Target folks. We targeted folks based on online behavioral cues, building out personas based on the type of content they were consuming, what they were searching.
Yeah, right. So like the way it works is like you have like these, let's just call them like, I'm trying to like give you guys a visual to go with, right? So these like listeners, right? There's like these programs that listen and scan input, right? So say it's like from, let's make it very simple. And let's just say it's from a form, right? Some kind of form data. Just because I'm trying to make it simple before we broaden out into posts and social media, right? And there's a text box where you can type in stuff, right? And in that text box, let's say that there's certain words that if you type certain words in, other programs that are listening and watching that input box, right, will react if you type a certain word. And then that will kick off a workflow that will then take your profile and do something to it, right? Whether it adds it to a segmentation or a list, or whether it scores it or something like that. Something won't happen because that word was in there and you put it in there, that is equal to, because it's an input, just a field, right? Into a field goes into a database, goes into a single cell that is part of your profile that says this field means this, right? So, and you can call it a product interest, you can call it a political interest, you can call it a whatever. They can make up, people like her, right, can make up whatever they want for that field to mean, right? They can make it could make it mean anything, and they can make it do any of the things that is said. Now, normally that's done for marketing and sales purposes, right? So, and that use of word may be a product interest, like or some kind of pain point or something like that that's interesting and will help with the marketing of the product from that point on, or like help understand the customer's need better, right? That's what it's supposed to do. And that's supposed to enable sales and marketing to do their jobs better and to be cleaner with their responses and their content that they're being served out. And this comes down to bottom line too. It comes down to cost. It comes down to a lot of things. But that's what it's supposed to be used for. Now you can use the same technology like they are to then look for a profile that says certain keywords, right, that they feel are important. And then when that profile says it on whatever, Facebook, Instagram, social media platform X, right? Not X like X.com, but like Y, right? Okay, so it listens, it pulls in, responds, it does something with it, and then that's what it does, right? So, and as your score for whatever in, right, increases, you may fall in or out of a different segment, a data segment, right? And that's how they know where to push what, when, how. That's how that's working. So what she's explaining here basically is just that to build this profile. I mean, it sounds so like ingenious, but it's really just adding data to a line, right? And then that data can react if there's a program listening for something to change. Like say even the data field changes, right? It updates. It could cause a workflow to kick off. So it's listening, right? It's listening to these inputs that are coming in. And in some cases it's reading, it's looking, contains this word, or contains a word like this, contains these words, any of these words, right? Just using basic logic, if then logic. It's real simple, but it seems like it's very difficult, right? But it's putting out a listener, right, on a field, and then saying, if this happens, then do this. That's what it is. That's how it works. So they're just using basic stuff to now manipulate people in a different way where they won't notice. Not my crowd. My crowd's going to know what the hell's going on because they're the smartest crowd, most base crowd out there. And if you believe in that, hit thumbs up, subscribe, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, be part of winning reality, because we're all going to win it together. All right. So let's continue.
The kinds of websites they were visiting so that
Websites
we
are key.
could
What websites do you go to? Think about that. Think about what kind of profile you can build with that information. The people that are going to Daily Wire, or they go into TuckerCarlson.com, or they're going to Info. Well, they don't. Is there an Infowars.com anymore? I don't know. And whatever other websites, right? They could build a profile. The FBI, may use that same type of technology, and probably has been, to track people that go to, sites they deem, suspicious, or they deem, troubling, how to build things, right? That go boom, or how to, they can build a profile on you on that and say, well, we noticed that certain people that have gotten to a certain point have all these markers. So we're kind of like baselining off that marker and saying anybody that goes into that realm may send off an alert that we need to go talk to this person or keep an eye on them, or do a manual investigation, right?
Target folks in real time as they were exposed to that disinformation.
As they were exposed to the disinformation.
Yep. And there's the word, right? There's the word. Because who decides it's disinformation?
Okay, so you respond to a tweet or a Facebook post, you put a little like emoji, or you comment on somebody posting about Biden's cognitive decline.
Yeah, your like. If you guys know that you have a list that's built of all your likes. That's another key indicator, right? So I mean, it could be whatever, right? But there's a list that every time you like a video or like a post or whatever, there's a list of all your likes and a list of all your dislikes. That tells a lot about who you are, right? If you can go through your likes and dislikes, for the most part, it could probably paint a pretty good picture of you, right? That's what he's talking about there.
On somebody posting about Biden's cognitive decline. Somehow they have real-time posting like emoji, respond to a tweet or a Facebook post, you put a little like emoji or you comment on somebody posting about Biden's cognitive decline. Somehow they have real-time metrics to that information.
Okay, so I just explained to you how they have real-time metrics, right? So that's why I did that before we got to this part, right? So you understand how it works, right? There's listeners. There's things that listen and then trigger workflows to activate when it goes down, if they're there, right? So if they're basically having to pay for it, it's basically like an ad pay almost kind of thing.
And then all of a sudden they can come around and retarget you to push back on the fact that you liked the post like that.
Push back or to give you their counter narrative, right? Their counter narrative. And so that's now here's the thing. If we know that this is what I've been saying, if we know that they're putting out disinformation, why wouldn't we want to counter narrative what they're putting out? We're already trying to do it. We do it by making content, videos. People get out there and they get comments, they get discussions, they drop links, when they can to prove their points. It's the same thing that's going on in real time. It's just they're doing it on a digital level because really they probably don't have the support to do it any other way, but they also realize that this is more effective, especially to people who don't understand how it works. I was just thinking about that, and there it was on a little ad right there, or a little advertisement or something. And it could just be the headline. It didn't even need to be clicked through. Its impression. The impression was made on you, right? And I'll show you how that's going to work. I'll show you how that works here coming up when we look at the Google ads that were out today, how they're using Google ads to counter negative press, right? So when you see how that works, you're going to already understand. When you see that, you're going to already understand how it works because we've done this part. But yeah, this is
Think about the finite manipulation that is happening in the social.
Yeah. So do we use this the same way? That's the question, right? That's the question. Do we use this the same way? Should we use this the same way? Is it the only way to counter things these days? Is it the only way to kind of in this landscape? Is it the only way to kind of compete, knowing how everything works and then it's not going anywhere? Let me see here. InfoWars store super male vitality. Yeah, get you some. They don't have that, do they? Do they still have a store? I used to buy toothpaste there. Yeah. They are suing him, so it's not available anymore. Who's suing him? What over the silver blue? What's wrong with that? I think that's why Elon shut off the ability to look at your likes. They can collect data on you. That's smart. Yeah. But the list still builds. You guys all have a list in YouTube of your likes. It's private, but it's still there. So it's still part of your profile.
Social media realms. The creation that is happening in the social media realms.
Hold on,
about the finite manipulation that is happening in the social media realms.
Right. This is the key point. Yeah.
Because your eyes see reality, but they want you to think that your eyes are lying to you. When Biden falls up a flight of stairs on Air Force One or falls off a bike in Virginia, what do? Oh, no, he's perfectly fine. When he gets lost trying to exit a stage or can't handle an unscripted press conference and fumbles through his words, oh, no. Nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah, they're talking about damage. He's talking about damage control. Like damage control in those senses. Now, this is why conspiracy grifting and all that shit hurts us. I mean, I hope this is the other part of this whole talk tonight is about how it hurts us when people are repost cheap fakes, right? They don't have the whole picture lined up. They're actually creating a cause, a necessity for them to counter narrative this stuff. So when you don't put out the truth, when you slack on your work, you slack on your research, you rush the market because you're scared of not getting out there, or you want to get the most views and clicks or whatever these guys motivates these guys to put half-ass work out there, right? That enables them. That gives them an excuse to say, well, we have to counter it. Look at all the shit that they're saying. You see, you literally are creating a reason for them to do this. And then for them to say, well, we have a valid reason. Look at all this stuff. They said that he pooped his pants. He was just sitting down. Here's the whole video, right? But it went around the world and back. And everybody from Tim Pool to Alex Jones, everybody else was saying that's what we were seeing. Now who's manipulating who at this point? That's why we can never fall back to being what we fight. This is why it gets me so like riled up and upset when people do this, when they don't take their influencer responsibility seriously. You're no better than them when you do that. Because Biden fell up a stair, or, he fell off a bike. That's true. And they want to make him look more presidential. They want to cover his gaffes, right? But then you turn around and you try to create gaffes that aren't there, or create things that aren't there. And then they're like see, this is how bad these people are. They can take that one example and send it around the world 100 million times. So when they say, well, you can't believe them because of this, and that's what their counter campaign could be, literally. Like that's why I get so I feel the tension every time it happens, because I realize how weaponized, what a weapon we hand to them when we do it. Like when people do it, like when you're, oh no, definitely in cyber tap on the big old bridge, right? When the boat didn't have a freaking internet connection. It's just like, but people got to rush the market and say, oh God, it was totally planned just to break down our infrastructure. They're doing it. It's happening. They're calling, that just gives them more content for their campaigns later on, just like they're putting together right here with a girl like this.
Yeah. Manipulating your reality in real time.
Right. So they can do anything with that. Right. So now they can go out there and say, they can manipulate people into believing that, the things that are being said about Tim Walz or Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton or whoever their establishment evildoer is, right, aren't true, or that they shouldn't be worried about, or they're not important, or they're misrepresented in some way. They have people ready to jump on it and do it, and they have technologies that are listening and helping.
Wow. Flaherty and Rinkovich saw the opportunity to grab a voter at a moment of curiosity and essentially keep badgering her as she traveled across the internet.
Curiosity equals awareness. All right. Curiosity is the first step to awareness. So awareness is the first step into the buyer's buy-in journey, right? You are now aware of this thing. Now you need research to understand it better. So who's going to get to you first? Inya Myers, couldn't they gather your data by having PsyOps make the post they want to see the likes on, because you can see who likes your post? Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. But they can do it that way, or they can just use the people that are already doing it. Right. So they go, okay, well, this outlet called Redacted is constantly putting out bullshit. So let's see who likes them. And then boy, they got a lot of people, they just go gather the likes on their videos, or gather their subscriber list, or, and then start filtering it down. Okay, well, not everybody that's a subscriber is a believer, right? So you got to filter down. And then when you filter down enough, you'll get what you're looking for. But yeah, they could build their own. They could have plenty of disinformation outlets. That's what they call, a lot of people point to and say controlled opposition, right? Controlled opposition. But do you have to be physically controlled opposition, or can you be manipulated controlled opposition, right? If you know that an outlet, it has a propensity to jump the gun and not do their research, why not feed them bullshit lines all day long? That's what I feel like was going on with the Sandy Hook stuff and the Boston bombing stuff back in the day. This is like everything leads back to that early research and that early activism that I did, because I see the remnants of it, right? In the evolution of what we were fighting against back to today. And it's like, I always felt like those narratives were so well crafted that, it felt like it was handed to people. more than it was people, you know. But I can see now that it is probably just people. Like they could have been steered a little bit, right? But it was really just a reaction to the way the media was pivoting and not circling back. Media's lack of their doing their job and becoming more political at the times was a big indicator of why a lot of people came up with the shit they did about that, right? To the lengths they took it to. Now, were they encouraged to go to a extreme length by COINTELPRO types or the deep state types or whatever, right? Maybe it's still on the table. It's still a question to this day I'm not sure about. But now you make a good point. Like, why not just make something up to see people buy it? I swear to God, some of these Facebook groups that were pushing these narratives out seem like they were handled. It seemed like they were handled, especially with the uniformity of the materials and the characters that were running it. Like the characters that were running it looks like total, undercover Fed type, like, informant type people, like, like you're like, this dude, right? It's like I just remember that one guy that's pushing out a whole bunch of this stuff. We got his page taken down, but he did not look like he fit in with us at all. Like it was just I never forget his face. Anyways, it was the FDA that warned Jones about some of his products with silver in them, so he took them down. What they warned him about? What they say? What they say?
That is according to the journalist Sasha Eisenberg.
Yeah, so that's what they're talking about here. Is like as soon as someone becomes aware or curious about something, that's when they want to get them. I mean, that's what they're really listening for, is that first stage, right? Because they want to get them while they still have a chance before they get to the good research. They want to give them the bad research. They want to give them the bad. They want to persuade them back into their underneath the nice, safe, warm veil of the establishment narrative. They want to push them back there. Go back to sleep. You don't want that red pill.
In his book, Lie Detectives. Holy cow. At a moment of curiosity, the moment that they can detect your curiosity, they target you. Like I just said, when you interact with that post, boom, instant data point.
Okay, that's if it is an instant data point. Hold on.
That they can spin around and badger you at every single other data point you interact with on the web.
Okay, well, that's if you fall into, because everybody's interacting all the time, that would just be blanket, right? And it would be detectable. They wanted to keep this kind of like, they want to keep it nonchalant, because that's why it's effective, right? So they can build the profile on you, on your not necessarily you, but you, right? It didn't have to be your name. It could be just whatever you're using online, right? And then when you fall into that segment, that's when you go get the campaign, the persuadables, right? If you're not persuadable, they're not going to waste their money on you, right? They'll just use that money to persuade other people not to listen to you. That easy. So it's more about trimming down where it's more about their targeting and their effectiveness, right? Because if they just said, okay, you're a patriot, you voted for Trump twice, and you clicked on this post that's going to say something bad about the establishment, why are we going to bother to try to change your mind? You're not going to budge. You're not going anywhere, right? So that's the difference. That's the difference. But he's right in the fact that it for some people it could set off a workflow that would make them be inundated with content that's going to counter that narrative.
Okay, looks like we got looks like an interview now. Couple minutes with this Sasha Eisenberg. If you typed the words Biden and the word senile in a search bar, you'd be shown short videos of Biden speaking clearly. Upon hearing this, MSNBC's Chris Hayes exclaimed, "Wow, Chris Hayes." I mean, he's one of those radical left MSNBC hosts that nobody likes.
Yep.
But apparently, he's getting a little bit of a red pill moment. Let's take a listen.
Team advice, what they called the Sleepy Joe storyline, using Trump's phrase about Biden's age and acute mental fitness. That was a problem. It had reach and it had potential impact. The persuadable voters said it would affect their vote choice. And so this manifests itself in a receptivity to storylines that suggested that he was old and physically weak, but it wasn't, the real concern, as one of his pollsters described to me, was that he wouldn't be the author of his presidency.
Right.
And so the original communications team advice on dealing with the age thing was, let's set up photo ops where he's going to ride his bicycle. Let's have him jog up the steps to his plane. And this research project pushed back and said, like, no, people are not worried that he won't get his steps in the White House. They are worried that he
is not his own man, that he's not.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so the response to it, if you were targeted, they started buying search terms like Biden and senile. And so if you went on Google and you searched those terms, they would try to drop a cookie on your web browser so that eventually when you're somewhere off on the web, on YouTube, you might get shown a 15-second video of Biden speaking to camera unedited about his economic policies. Like the most banal thing that you can imagine, something that has no apparent connection to his age.
Right.
But the testing revealed that was the thing that assuaged these concerns, was like, no, he knows what he believes and he can say it clearly. And so, I think that the most effective tactics to dealing with this disinformation things are the ones that really step back and sort of think about this as a kind of traditional political communications problem, even if it's triggered by this sort of peculiar digital dynamics that sort of set it in motion.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story.
It is a fascinating story, isn't it? And how ironic is it? Now, I didn't see this clip. You and I watched it for the first time just now. and they used the two examples that I just presented to you. Unreal. Shoo! Keep going, baby. Okay, Biden's team also deployed an army. This like we're seeing now with Kamala. Biden's team also deployed an army of online influencers to fight disinformation when asked for an example of disinformation countered with this digital organizing. Fleury's example of such disinformation was the question about Biden's mental fitness.
Everyone sit up, and that goes.
I just wanted to ask if you could, I would love to hear if you could expand a little bit.
Hope not hit.
More on how you use digital organizing to counter disinformation. If you can expand a little bit more, like that would be really cool to hear.
Yeah. I know there's a second.
Thank you, Alfreda.
Panel we're doing on digital organizing. We had one of the largest digital organizing operations that's sort of everyone sit up. And that goes from a YouTube creator all the way down to a pastor who has a Facebook following that is big in Florida. So, for example, if there was this sort of question about the president-elect's mental fitness, which was a sort of hit against him that the polling found to be effective. It was also very easy to ameliorate by showing content of the vice president speaking, right? Because that gives people proof without like showing them up. Right. And so, we encourage those people to share content that did that thing and that helped disprove from a research perspective the thing without being in their face about it, saying fact check, or if you believe this, you're wrong. And so that was just like one sort of example.
I just wanted to ask if you could.
Okay, so without putting it in their face, so they're doing it surreptitiously, secretly.
Right.
They're making you see this information without really disclosing the origins of it.
Yep.
Wow. This is a sophisticated manipulation psyop.
Yep. And it's just, like I said, it's just adopting, using the tools and the data that's already out there, right? And building off of that. That's what they're doing. They're building like a parallel kind of architecture that does this kind of stuff, but it's still using the same tools and data and mechanisms, right? So they say silently or quietly serving you the information, just putting it onto the side. I'm going to show you exactly what this is in real time here in a second.
This goes on. Joining Flattery and Rinkovich on Zoom was the DNC Counter Disinformation Program creator and
dude, there you go. DNC Counter Disinformation Program creator and lead analyst Tim Durgan. Yeah,
lead analyst.
Like I said, you're seeing that they have all these things in place already. They've been at work probably since 2020. So for what 4 4 years now, at least. I mean, I still have a hard time believing they weren't doing something like this beforehand. But this guy's saying that that's what their big upgrade was, their big optimization, of their digital media strategy is actually implementing these kind of tools and these kind of programs where they're actually out there trying to work against any kind of dissonance that goes on. And then people that are grifting make it real fucking easy for them. So that's why I got such a big problem with them, is like if you don't get it right, they'll use it against you, even though they get it wrong every time.
Tim Durrigan. His reports, according to Flaherty, went to the highest levels of the Biden campaign.
Highest level. We at the campaign cared a lot about this work, and reports that Tim did went to the literal highest levels of the campaign.
The highest levels. The Twitter files. Oh, remember the Twitter files?
Yes.
Show the Durrigan.
Yes, Lex, definitely. For sure. Who was mentioning the Twitter files earlier? Was that T-Rex Truck? Are you still here, T-Rex? You got your ears on, buddy? Here's your part.
Tried to censor many posts, including a video mashup of Biden coughing posted by Jack Posobiec. He failed in the one instance, but it seems other such efforts were successful. According to lie detectives, he also cultivated ties with Google and Facebook. Okay, so Jack Posobiec, very influential on X, puts out a video and they come out and force to suppress it.
So like they're listening on X, right? Something's listening on X that alerts someone to do something when something happens. I would say that it could just be, we know to look at, we watch certain people every day, right? It could be that. It could be, how do they know what it is, right? They probably get an alert, and they probably got someone that goes, okay, well, Posobiec's doing this, so-and-so's doing that. I don't know. It's a lot of work to have, maybe one person watches many people. Or they could keyword these people in general, but I'm trying to understand what kind of technology they were going to use to do that, when it's mostly like about ad serving and profile building. So now this is more like an account-based approach, like where Jack Posobiec's the account, and then we watch what he says in his account to craft counter narratives. I don't know. I'd like to see what these lie detectives have to say.
I think we have there's four attachments on this piece. So Matt Taibbi, if you know, he was one of the first people to present all this information from inside of.
One thing you got going for you in the EU is they have more privacy regulation, right? It's you can get your data back, I guess, supposedly. Get it back, get it scrubbed, whatever. You find it in certain places. There's some kind of counters to that. I'm trying to think of the name of it right now. I know it like the back of my hand, but I can't think of the name at the moment. It'll come to me in a second. But they have more. At least the EU has more laws about data privacy. But the same companies, the same methodologies or stuff, they're worldwide.
He was one of the first people to present all this information from inside of Twitter after Elon Musk purchased it.
Tim, because the video is an unaltered excerpt of the vice president's speech, our team considered it to be out of context but not deceptive. Hope this provides some insight. Can you help us understand the decision-making process here? The content is deceptively altered and shared. That's what he's doing for the DNC. Of course, he's going to come at him like that. He's not honest in general. To warrant a label. What kind of label did you want on it? Well, they didn't let him get away with it, I guess.
The flow chart here. Now, this is Twitter responded to complaints.
Matt Taibbi.
The video is an unaltered excerpt of Vice President's speech. Our team considered it to be out of context but not deceptive, Twitter told the staffer, who fumed. These rules need revision.
Twitter told the staffer the staffer fumed. These rules need to okay, I got you. All right. They don't like the fact. Yeah, of course they're pushing back, right? You didn't do what we wanted you to do. December 24th, 2022.
You know, excuse me. So, for the, thank you. It was unexpected outlets. Not when
I was like, I kept saying GR in my head. That's why I was like, I got it. I got to think of it, but you beat me to it. There you go. GDPR. I think it's GDRP actually.
First, mother, but that's mother. Done. You know.
Okay, so that goes on for 26 seconds.
Right.
They didn't like
it.
He decided to edit every moment the man coughed. You've probably seen dozens of mashups where people are
okay. So like, let's just do this, right? They could do the same thing with Trump, right? So if we saw them do a cough compilation of Trump, and we put it out there, we call that what? What would we call that? What would we do about that? It's the same response. It's why this kind of tactics are I say I'm trying to think of the right word. That kind of tactic isn't ideal. It's not optimal because you can totally be turned around, right? It's like if we see them doing the same thing. They soundbite Trump all the time. They're going to paint a certain picture, that they want. When they do it to us, we call that disinformation. And if we do that same thing, he coughs, right? But if you take every cough he ever did in a year and put it together and make him look like he's having a coughing fit, that's not really being that real, right? It's trying to set an impression that you want to set, which leads into the world of deception. Yes, he coughed all those times. When you put it together, it paints a different picture. Psychologically, you're kind of walking a thin line right there. And I would say protection regulation. Okay, yeah, GDPR. Okay, got it. And do we want to be like them? Right? Because they were doing it to Trump before people were doing it to Biden. But I'm not to say that anybody on our side wouldn't do the same thing, right? So it leads us to the question, is that just the way things are now? So if that's just the way things are now, and that's just the way things are going to be done, why aren't we doing the same thing that they're doing? Right? So, if we get, maybe we see it as a meme, or do we? See, I talk about that. It's like, if you're going to present it as a meme, make sure people know it's a meme. If it can be confused as not, because if not, it'll just be turned around and used against you. It'll be used to keep people away and keep people away from leaving, or keep people in the establishment narrative, right? Keep people in the first veil. It'll be used to make people outside the first veil, not listening to the establishment narrative, not voting with the Democrats, look crazy, right? Oh, look at what they're doing. They're so manipulative, right? Oh yeah, I can totally see they're just running a bunch of things. They're making them look this way. It's not good strategy. It just really isn't. Let's see. It's about the narrative. The right wants a valid narrative. Left wants a narrative they can craft, steer, and control. Let's see. It's okay. Yeah, you said that twice. There you go. Same thing. Gotcha. All right. Oh my God, you're getting sold. Really? Were you here for the first 2 hours? I'm explaining all this piece by piece on how it all works. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, right? It's like, do we want to be like them or be like something better?
Every time they say one word, they edit the same word over and over again. Like being unburdened by what has been. That's Kamala's catchphrase. People edit these this time every time she says it. And here's no different. You just have an edit of him coughing, but no, that's not. They determine that these rules need to be revised.
Well, that's them pushing back to probably get. Yeah, I get it. I know what he's saying. I'm not arguing with him. What I'm saying is, like, they're trying to change rules, right? They don't want rules, even though, because then they want to be able to take anything down they want to at any time. So yeah, they're total dickheads, right?
The reason Joe Biden appears lost in the video is because Joe Biden is literally, by definition, lost. Biden began his speech by greeting the wrong community center.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Kingswood Community Center. Actually, that's the one down I used to work. As a joke. You didn't know where we were anyway.
He's speaking at William Hicks Anderson Center, not Kingswood.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Nobody thought it was a joke.
Welcome to Kingswood Community Center.
It was just really awkward.
Actually, that's the one down I used to work. As a joke. You didn't know where we were anyway.
Factcheck.org.
Well, if you're gonna tell a joke, you got to do better than that. Man. That's like bad. That was bad. Let's see it. Oh yeah, what's gonna happen when everybody quits YouTubing? What's gonna happen? The internet will be a better place. Is it just YouTube? I don't know, man. We got a long ways to go before we can fix the information problem in this world.
Then argues the video was false for not including the rest of this sentence.
It's great to be here and back in a place where.
But Joe Biden never finished the sentence himself.
It's great to be here and back in a place where I want to thank Wayne Jefferson for having us here at Hicks Anderson Center. I believe from Delaware.
After accusing the video of editing out the end of a sentence that was never completed in the first place, Fact Check reprimands the video for cutting together clips of Biden's awkward pauses.
I mean, that's a 5-minute video. I'll go ahead and retweet this. You can hit me up you can hit up my X profile. You can see it for yourself. But just a perfect example of how the fact checkers are attempting to control your reality. And a lot of times these fact checkers are working hand in hand with the administration or the campaign so they can control the narrative that you see in your news feeds. The Zoom host asks about the big problem of true misinformation, and Durrigan says it's a huge problem and wants social media to suppress true misinformation to promote authoritative news sources like the New York Times. Big tech.
Exactly. When they control information, they control the lines of communication, all that stuff. That's what we're dealing with, right? Because they get to make the rules. They get to decide what disinformation, misinformation, all that stuff is, right? This guy does. And that's the part that's not cool, right? They don't get to dictate that. They want to fight on that battlefield. We can get into the fight. So do we do the same things, or do we say that they can't do these things? Oh, good night, Wolfram. Have a good night, buddy. Thank you so much. Sleep well. Dude's like a clock, man. He's on it. He's on it. It's time to go. Boom. 11 p.m. usually. Nighttime. He's on the money. Thank you so much for everything, Wolfram. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Do we ban them from using sales and marketing technology and data in order to with politics, which I think is one solution, or do we fully engage in it ourselves, right? And then that becomes like a big thing. So you might have to do one before you get to the other. So it might be like we have to fully engage in it first, and then we'll be like, well, nobody can do this now because it's ridiculous. Sometimes that has to happen.
Done that since 2018, but apparently not enough for Tim. Well, if you've been following this channel for any 2018, but apparently not news sources like the New York Times. Big Tech's done that since 2018, but apparently not enough for Tim. Well, if you've been following this channel for any period of time, then you know that in 2017 of November is when YouTube officially changed their algorithm. And when they did that, they started to lift up authoritative voices. And when they decided to lift up authoritative voices, they suppressed all the independent media and content creators, like this very channel. Whistleblowers from inside Google came forward. Zach Voorhees came forward with documentation that proved that our channel was on a list of those sources of information put at the very bottom, weighted with a negative search result, so you couldn't even find our content. So if you're
hear that, and like I said, they demonetized Gary. Like, he's been demonetized for 6 months for whatever reason, right? Listen one more time.
bottom, weighted with a negative search result, so you couldn't even find our content.
Weighted with a negative search result.
So if you're here watching this, you are one of the lucky ones that made it through the algorithm.
One of the big problems I think we're facing with the misinformation in the UK is not just the role that fabricated or misinformation is playing, but selective truth or selective propaganda, if you will. A lot of the groups that we would monitor, for example, the vast majority of the content in their groups, say it's an anti-Muslim movement, is true. It's not that the story is fabricated. It's just that the only thing that they post in that group is 1,000 articles a week about halal food all over the world. And they create this perception that halal and Islam is taking over the world. And it's not that the stories are not true. It's just that they are very selective in their choosing. And I wonder if that's something that you had to come up with that goes slightly beyond just saying this is fabricated, this is fact checked, it's not true, and how you deal with it when something is true, but they present it in a manner or with a mass of it that it becomes untrue. And how do you deal with kind of true misinformation? That's not a paradox.
In terms of the propaganda aspect, I think it's a huge problem. One of the things that Facebook has touted is their fact-checking program, which is problematic and insufficient in a lot of ways. But the problem that you mentioned, Joe, is super important, because even if the fact-checking was happening perfectly, there would still be the ability to deceive with framing and with coverage choices. So similar to the halal example you gave, in the US, there's a company called Mad World News. And basically they will take, 4 and 5-year-old really heinous crimes, usually perpetrated against women or children by, people of color. And they will circulate those and publish them over and over as if, this was happening on a daily basis. And they can kind of spread, foment racism, encourage hate with truth, even if it's presented in a misleading way. From my perspective, I think this comes down to distribution and quality of content. And one of the things that especially social media has been really hesitant to do is to say certain sources of news are more authoritative than others. They're higher quality than others. And so,
right. Who decides, right? The establishment decides.
To give a US example, the New York Times, which people will call sometimes the paper of record, really authoritative source of information, and that site Mad World News are treated the same. They look the same on Facebook. And so, if a Mad World News clip is getting a lot of likes, Facebook is going to say, hey, this is good content, and they're going to push it out just the same as if the New York Times did that. And usually the New York Times is not going to get as many likes because the content they're putting out is factual, it's nuanced, it's boring, but accurate. And so there's kind of a natural preference for this type of clickbait, inciting content. And so I think that's certainly a frontier where we need.
Yeah, certainly. Right. Oh, authoritative news. I can't stand that term. A month later, the really authoritative New York Times celebrated the Biden-Harris team and called concerns about Biden's mental health baseless rumors and misinformation from right-wing influencers. Oh, but they're the paper of record, right? Fight misinformation, but pick your battles. There were baseless rumors about Mr. Biden's health. When it did respond to misinformation, the Biden team tried to address the root of the narrative. After right-wing influencers posted compilation videos of Mr. Biden stumbling over his words and appearing forgetful. Yeah, those things certainly didn't happen. That's just misinformation we've been fed for years. But the Biden team didn't just get the media to forward their deception. They changed real votes. According to Rinkovich, concern around Biden's mental acuity in particular went down by 8 points over the course of our campaign, resulting in about 200,000 votes for Biden. Did you hear what I just said? This campaign to suppress the truth about Biden by countering narratives being presented by individuals like Jack Posobiec and others, and even probably mine here, reporting on Biden's mental acuity, falling up the stairs and falling off bikes and all of his gaffes. And like you just saw the clip, he didn't even know where he was. So they, in real time, pushing back against these narratives in a straight up, like point for point war of information, resulting in 200,000 votes.
And a couple notes on sort of our eventual top line impact. We found over the course of our campaign in tracking with our traditional research and in-flight ads measurement that the risk and the hit concern around mental acuity in particular went down by 8 points over the course of our campaign. And in looking at the number of folks who moved in vote choice, we saw about 200K folks shore up their votes for the president-elect based on the ads that we served in our campaign. So a very quick and dirty high-level look at...
Quick and dirty. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. To put things into perspective, Orphalia points to this poll. Biden won by fewer than 200,000 votes in Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin combined.
Yeah, we all know the truth about that.
So their effective campaign to push back against the truth of Biden's cognitive decline.
That could be false. That could be false analytics right there, just based on the shenanigans. Like, so they can take this and say, "Well, we did that."
Their counter campaign, where she just admitted to about 200,000 votes.
How would you even figure that out?
Materialized in these states. Biden won by fewer than 200,000 votes. Now, of course, how many of those were just handwritten mail-ins overnight at 3 a.m.?
Right. I'm saying.
Today, Rinkovich runs the Institute of Rebooting Social Media, at Harvard. Durgan leads the DNC disinfo analysis, and Flaherty is the deputy campaign manager overseeing digital ads and social for Kamala Harris, despite her past criticism of the intrusive data collection that he exploits.
And whether, let's be clear, this arrangement is not always working in the best interests of the American people. First, users have little to no idea just how Facebook collects their data, including tracking the user's location, the device they are using, their IP address, and activities on other websites. To be clear, this occurs whether or not they are logged into Facebook and whether or not they even use Facebook. Let me put this in perspective.
Please do.
In the real world, this would be like someone following you every single day as you walk down the street, watching what you do, where you go, for how long, and with whom you're with. For most people, it would feel like an invasion of privacy, and they'd call the cops. Let's be clear.
Yeah, let's be clear. Yeah, back in the day, she might have opposed it, but now she's actively using it. Like Biden's mental decline, the war on disinformation continues. What true misinformation will they go after next? Please follow me here on X and at orf.report. So my hat is off to Matt Orphalia for putting together this comprehensive thread. 19 threads. Oh my, and I don't even follow him. I don't even know how I got there, but I'm following him now. Definitely. And I'm going to tap that notification bell so I make sure I get all the posts from Matt Orphalia. Amazing thread. An absolutely amazing thread. Going to go ahead and retweet that for sure. Yep. So if you want to go and follow that thread, go follow me on X. You'll find that thread.
Final thoughts here.
Even Mike Benz commenting on the thread, calling it an essential thread for everybody.
Yeah, so Mike Benz. Like Mike Benz did a great interview that we covered. So
there you have it, folks. The smoke and mirrors game played by the Biden-Harris team has been exposed for all to see. This is not just about one election or a candidate. It's about the integrity of the entire process. So as we move forward, remember, vigilance is key. Question everything. Seek out the truth, and don't let manipulated narratives shape your views. Keep watching the Raw feed here at the Next News Network, because we will be here peeling back the layers of deception and bringing you the unvarnished truth. The fight for transparency in our political system is just beginning. And we're counting on informed citizens like you to keep the flame of liberty burning bright.
There we go. All right. So a little bit more. Let's see. Hold on. Real quick on. Oops, hold on. So there you go. That's the nuts and bolts of how they're doing these campaigns, how they're using digital warfare. There's more to it, though. There's more to it.
And Ryan Hartwig as well. So Ryan was alongside. Absolutely. It was great to testify alongside Zach and Ryan Hartwig as well. So Ryan was the whistleblower from Facebook, Zach whistleblower from Google. And I think that what Zach was pointing out there in the clip you just played is that is the biggest source of these companies' power, and that is the invisible way that they shape and structure our information environment. The stuff we see online when we search out a site really on anything, everything we see and encounter and the way that we interact with it is completely controlled by a handful of large companies. Internet search, Google has controls over 90% of that market. In fact, a U.S. court here in the U.S. just found that their search is an illegal monopoly because of how powerful it is. And in terms of social media, Google's YouTube and Meta's Facebook and Instagram, they control some of the largest digital public squares in the world. That's where information is being traded, especially around politics and elections. And I think that makes this conversation and what Texas is doing so important.
So give us a brief overview of the key points that you made in your testimony.
Yeah, so my testimony focused on essentially three key elements. The first element is that big tech is using a variety of methods to manipulate our information environment. And let me just lay out the three kind of sub-points really quick. So the first is what I'll call reactive intervention. So that's so similar to what Zach was alluding to when you talked about blacklists, right? So when Google proactively identifies a news site or a piece of content that it wants to prevent from, say, appearing in its search results or appearing in YouTube's recommender algorithms, what they can do is essentially program the names of those sites or content in. They can put it in essentially an internal tool, and those internal tools can function as filters, which means that, say, you're
internal tools, segmentation, data segmentation.
On YouTube, you look at you search for a video with the term Donald Trump or border security in it, and essentially that can trigger a particular filter that Google can pre-program to hide certain information. So say you're looking for, let's just use a very practical example. A couple weeks ago, Google was caught red-handed when they were suppressing suggested searches around the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Now, they claimed that it was an algorithm that was designed to prevent information around so-called political violence. But that's what prompts us to ask some questions. So how do they define political violence, and what's on that list? So that's an example of reactive intervention, right, of how they're essentially censoring speech. The second kind of intervention is proactive. So that's when Google and Facebook send out what are called ephemeral experiences. So they might do this in the form of go vote reminders. They might do this in the form of a notice around a particular political candidate or campaign. They might decide to boost or prioritize particular websites. So say you search for a presidential candidate, RFK or Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Well, what Google chooses to put in the very top of the search bar really affects how you're going to perceive those candidates and what information pathways you're going to go down. So if you look, for instance, on most Google searches, and again, it's personalized to each person, so it might be different for you, but Google can essentially decide based on your user profile what kind of information they want you to see. So if they want you to see positive news about a particular candidate, they can make sure that a news bar appears in the top of your search results and is populated by establishment media sites, which are going to essentially report positive things about frankly, establishment Democrat candidates.
And if I could just interrupt, that YouTube refers to those as authoritative news sources.
Yes. Yes, and I will say something else, that recently, since that since that testimony, there was actually a major leak from Google. So Google actually, and we don't know exactly how it leaked, but there was a major leak of its search algorithms, and in that algorithm, and there was tons of code. So people are still going through it, and there's a lot of questions about like what's in there. We don't know because Google won't talk about it. But what's really interesting is that in the code, there were words like authoritative source, COVID-19, election, integrity. So various kind of key phrases in there. And based on Zach's testimony and what he revealed when he left Google, I believe back in 2018, those probably are terms that they built into their code to instruct their AI algorithm. So the AI can look essentially for sources, classify a source as, let's say, authoritative or non-authoritative, and that classification can in turn inform how the algorithm treats it. In different search queries or again recommendations. It affects everything about that content, who interacts with it, and how. So that's an example of proactive intervention. The third kind is what I'll call cooperative intervention. Now, we saw this especially with old Twitter. So before Elon Musk took over Twitter, one of the things he was doing that was enabling the censorship industrial complex was he was giving privileged API access to third-party groups who were quote unquote monitoring mis and disinformation. What this essentially allowed those groups to do was to go in and track the quote unquote sources of disinformation. So they could essentially figure out who's posting content they don't like, and then they could figure out who is reacting to it and how. And based on that information, they could interact with the platform and say, Twitter, we think that this person's content, because of their reach, because of a variety of factors, it's content that's likely going to be spread. So we want you to essentially demonetize them or derank them. Or in other cases, they could say this is a particular piece of content that we think maybe you don't shadow ban the whole account, but maybe you prevent this piece of content from being shared. I mean, there's a million different ways to go about that, but that's a sort of cooperative that requires sort of cooperative work between Twitter, usually third-party researchers, and we know now because of the case Murthy v. Missouri and investigations by the House Judiciary Committee that it also involved government entities like DHS, like CISA, et cetera. So those are kind of the three big ways that big tech is intervening in our elections and political discourse. And that really takes me to the second point of my testimony, which is that a lot of these interventions may violate state and federal election law. In this country, we actually ban corporations in most cases from donating directly to political candidates.
Hold that thought, because that's always been something I have considered, that all these actions are more or less in-kind donations to these candidates.
That's good points. These are ways to push back on it. That's why I'm showing you guys this.
That's often true. And what we're seeing is, so if Google, say, alters their algorithm that favors one particular candidate over another, and they do that without being paid for it, so by the campaign, then they're essentially making a contribution. And in most states, and indeed under federal law, that's essentially illegal. Or at least it's a reportable expenditure. So that was sort of what I was raising for Texas, is that there's so much we don't know about what these companies are doing. And it's because we don't know what they're doing that it's really hard to figure out, how would you use existing laws to go after them? So that's why transparency is key. And that takes me to the third point, which is what I urged the Texas Senate Committee to do was first to issue in-depth subpoenas to major companies, Alphabet, TikTok, Meta, and X, and ask very specific pointed questions around each of those three areas of intervention that I just referenced. So specifically, proactive, cooperative, and reactive modes of manipulating elections. But they need to focus. I recommended in my testimony that they drill down on each of those and really unpack them. So obviously the contents of the subpoena are not public, but based on the testimony and based on the fact that Texas is using its subpoena power, I think it's really they have an opportunity to open the case on some of that.
So the committees, they also heard from other witnesses. As we played the Zach Voorhees clip there, Dr. Robert Epstein. How did their testimonies complement or differ from yours?
So talking about Zach, Zach, I think, brings a really unique insider's perspective. He was at Google. He was in the heart of the beast. He understands how the company operates. And because of it was really because of his whistleblowing back in 2018 that we know a lot of what we know about Google's internal workings. That's the thing, is we never figure out what actually goes on behind the scenes unless someone blows the whistle or unless there's an official investigation that forces these companies to divulge information, which is one reason I think this investigation is so significant. But in terms of Dr. Robert Epstein, your listeners probably know who Dr. Epstein is. He's one of the, frankly, only major social scientists studying Google's election interference. And he's been studying that, I believe, since at least since 2016. He's found credible evidence that Google alone is able to shift millions of votes. And he's found specific instances of that. One example was the Georgia Senate runoff shortly after 2020, where essentially Google was sending go vote reminders to Democrat users at a much higher rate than Republicans, and that's been the case in other political contexts as well. I believe it's happening even now around voter registration in some parts of the country. He's tracking this in real time, and so he's able to bring to the committee hard empirical evidence of their direct partisan bias, and that's really important, I think, when we're talking about legal remedies, because if these companies are in fact knowingly boosting voter participation among one demographic of voters that they may perceive to be favorable to their political interests or the interests of a particular party over another, then they are also engaged in an in-kind contribution, and they should be held accountable under state and federal law. So I think the research that he's done is critical to establishing that.
Now, this brings me to this breaking news, is that the Texas Senator Brian Hughes has now issued formal document requests to major tech companies, Google, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. We're looking at the actual letter that he sent on the screen right now. So what is your reaction to this significant development?
Well, I think it's huge. And I want your listeners to understand that what a subpoena means, it's more than just a strongly worded letter. Subpoena means that the companies are legally liable if they do not produce the requested documents. So there is actually a procedure under Texas law whereby if, say, Google refuses to comply with the request for information, if they refuse that, there is a procedure under Texas law where the legislature can go to court and compel them to do so. And if they refuse a court order to do so, then they're I believe they're committing, it could be at least a civil violation that might actually rise in some cases to criminal violation under Texas law. That's something that you should talk to a Texas legal expert about. But there is a legal remedy for the Texas legislature to seek these documents, and that's rare because usually what we've seen from Congress, at least in most cases, is saber rattling. Is they'll go and they'll write a letter, they'll ask some questions, but frankly, the questions are generally pretty broad, and the companies, I mean, they're able to just brush those off and give a very generic answer. This is different because it's more akin to, say, a lawsuit where you enter discovery and a court compels the parties to produce all of the actual records pertaining to the legal action, which means that the company can't just put their gloss on how they want you to perceive it. They actually have to produce the material.
Okay. I'm gonna leave that there. You can listen to the rest of that report. It's kind of long. If you want to see the rest of that interview, it's on the Next News Network YouTube page, and it says breaking code red in Silicon Valley. That's the headlining little siren there, so you know it's important. But I want to get into a couple more things to wrap it up. Like I told you, I'm going to show you real-time stuff of how they're using it, but I also want to point out this. This is this site, this X profile is getting a lot of attention lately. And this is straight from the Kamala Harris HQ, providing context. 1.2 million followers. Scary. Welcome to Kamala HQ. This is the official rapid response page of Vice President Harris's presidential campaign. I wonder who's running that. Right? And what they do on this page is they have ready-made stuff that's already going out. Most of it gets community noted because it's bullshit. But things like this, this person going, "Yikes!" You're reposting this from this page that puts this stuff out constantly. Unearthed audio. JD Vance says he agrees that the whole purpose of the postmenopause, the whole purpose of postmenopausal female is to help raise grandchildren, and that helping raise children is weird, unadvised feature of marrying an Indian woman. That makes no sense. These people are. If you read down this page, you can see all the propaganda they're pumping out, right? And where it's going to go. You can see how many of these things are like community noted. It's just like it's all in there. But you can go through this and look at it yourself. This is their main page. And of course, there's a counter one. There's a counter page to this, which is hold on, let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, Kamala HQ lies. So here's the counter page, and that unfortunately only has 114K followers, but that's where they go back and they repute what they're putting out. So we got counters to counters to counters, but that's the way you got to fight them. You got to go. They're going to put out propaganda. You got to turn around and you got to slap it back on them. and you got to put out the counter to that, right? So that's everything's about that. Their idea of disinformation, ours. Of course, we're based in the truth, so we know that we're on the right side of things. But we know that they're corrupt and that they will say anything to get ahead. But in their eyes, they think that they're, they're just and they're altruistic and whatnot. I think. I mean, for most people, for a lot of them, they know that they're dirty and they're crooked and they just want power and control. But you can see that they got, even though there's the quartering, there's Benny Johnson, the lie. Donald Trump is not working as hard as he was in 2016. The truth, Trump is holding bigger rallies and is doubling down on interviews. So they're saying that, right here, Trump operatives, this is not 2016 Trump. He used to do 4 events a day. Now he's just playing golf instead. What does that even mean? But they use this. And in this one, you can see that Jeremy says, I did not give them a permission to use my stuff. So whatever that means too. But yeah, they're out there working hard. It exists. And then there's people out there that see a need and to see a space to counter it, and they jump in. So good for you and good on you. Kamala HQ lies. I am following. I'm following. All right. So now it's time. Now it is time for me to show you the real-time ad manipulation that's going on with Google today. Let me go ahead and bring this up right here. I happened to just catch this one right as I was coming in here. Watched a lot of it, not all of it. So let's check it out. Oh, we're not, by the way, it's just the beginning. It's not the whole thing.
Can I say I'm surprised? The big story that we have now is Kamala Harris busted for taking out fake Google ads. Well, they're real Google ads, but they're fake headlines to make it look like her campaign's doing better than it really is. She has no campaign policies, and she's running.
Right. So, when they say that, who's doing it for them? We just saw the whole team, right? We saw the whole team.
As what Fox News describes her as, what do they call her? A generic Democrat. That's it. Vote Democrat just because. Because vote blue no matter who. That's become the main thing, I guess. Now, the polls are coming out way in favor of Kamala Harris. Donald Trump, the media is claiming, is losing his mind, saying that J.D. Vance was the wrong choice. It's all lies. It's all lies. J.D. Vance is a great choice.
Take care,
the big
Lex.
scandal now. Tim Walz is really feeling the stolen valor thing. So that'll be our second segment. And J.D. Vance's scandal is that he wore a dress. I mean, they tried calling him weird. And now they found a photo from 13 years ago of him at some party, at a college party or something. And he was wearing a wig and a dress playing beer pong. It's like, what did he lose, a dare or a bet or something? Come on. This is ridiculous. That's what they can come up with. But Tim Walz is really feeling the heat from the stolen valor scandal, addressing it again.
That's the best they got on him. They're really struggling, aren't they?
And trying to downplay it, claiming as though J.D. Vance insulted him over his service. Bro, it ain't going to work. This is a huge issue. A lot of people are saying, wow, the dude lied about being in war, and over again lied about his rank. So that's really hitting him hard. And then we got a couple stories, but maybe we'll see what develops throughout the day, because there's a small handful of stories we can get into. Of course, Google is at risk of being broken apart. The DOJ is preparing to break apart Google as an illegal monopoly. And then we got big news, a couple big stories in the Foreign Policy Department. Germany has issued an arrest warrant for Ukrainian diver for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, okay, Ukraine is our enemy. Ukraine is the enemy of this country, of our allies. And why are we tolerating funding this stuff? Look, man, I can get mad. I can say, well, look at the polls. I can get frustrated with Democrats. The foreign policy stuff really riles me up. $20 billion now approved to be sent to Israel as we're gearing up for a war, for whatever reason, that Israel's going to have with Iran, because the U.S. is going to get dragged into it. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I really do believe that no matter who wins this time around, we're going to have war. I know Donald Trump is the first president that didn't start a war, but I don't know if Trump can stop what's coming at this point. Do you think that the show is good? If you like the Tim Pool Daily Show, available on iTunes. If you're ever missing an episode, chords, and then we publish at 1 p.m. or something, might as well. Podcast platforms. Let's dive into the first story. Ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris campaign busted for taking out Google ads with fake headlines to deceive voters into believing positive coverage. If I were to tell you that the Democrats were lying, would you be shocked? Yeah, I didn't think you would be, but this is a big scandal because news outlets are not writing this positive coverage of the Kamala Harris campaign.
You see what she's showing right there? You see, paid for by Harris for president, president's campaign, sponsored ad, well placed, right on what is essentially really not a good piece, right? So they're trying to put this message out there in the middle of pieces that are critical. And you just learned everything you need to know about how that works and who's doing it.
But the Harris campaign is making sure that when you search Google, I got to give it to them. This is clever. Here's one. Sponsored, paid for by Harris for president. VP Harris protects democracy. Trump defends January 6 comments. They're running multiple headlines. Here's a story from Axios. Now, I first heard this from allsides.com, actually.
Harris's campaign, Google ads rewrite news headlines. Check this out.
And then we saw the story blow up. Axios, Harris's campaign, Google ads rewrite news headlines. Notice how it's a rather neutral headline over at Axios. Here's a bunch of examples. Screenshots of Harris for president ads with Google Ads library. So let me break this down. The Democrats in the Harris campaign are taking out ads on Google, not to promote their campaign, but to edit the headlines of news stories to promote news stories, but the headlines look like endorsements or positive coverage of Kamala Harris. I got to give it to you. That is masterfully done. Masterfully done. You see, this is what I'm talking about with Republicans being constantly behind the curve and, to be honest, unwilling to be evil. Donald Trump could have called in the National Guard. And I don't even consider that evil during the riots. He could have been stronger, but he's trying to play nice. Say, we're going to let the states do what they do. We're not going to come in with an iron fist. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
Tim's going to come at this from the angle that we should be doing the same thing. And it's a fair question to ask, I think, at this point, because it's already there. The tool's already there. The weaponization of it's already there. They're already doing it. That's the ground they're fighting on. Are we fighting on the same ground, right? And it's an effective battlefield because it's just like little headlines that just stick in your head, right? Big bold print, right? Short and sweet, right? And they're well placed, so they're having that countering effect. And then they wouldn't spend the money if it didn't work.
Here we are. Look at this. Some of these headlines. Who is Kamala Harris? That's not so bad. Harris will lower health costs. Tim Walz's military service, 24 years of the National Guard. VP Harris's economic vision, lower costs and higher wages. Can we get the Republicans to play dirty? I mean, they do. I'm not a fan of it. I'm kidding. What do? How do you win when the opponent is underhanded, evil, and manipulative? Now, here's what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump has an ad. Let me, I can pull it right up for you. Real Donald Trump over on that there X. Here's what Donald Trump is doing. He's doing an ad blitz. And here we go. Here's an ad they posted to Twitter. Here's what Trump is playing. I'll play a little bit of it. I'm not going to play a lot of it.
Bad moments. You got to love what you're doing. And if you don't, just do something else. Keep standing up always for your values. Keep loving your country. And one of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit. Then ask yourself, what imprint will you leave in the sands of history? What will future Americans say we did in our brief time right here on Earth? Did we take risks? Did we dare to defy expectations?
So Trump's playing an emotional montage, emotional videos, trying to reach people in a very traditional way, right? And we spent the last almost 2 hours and 40 minutes talking about the modern digital battleground that's going on. The Democrats are already way in front of. That maybe a lot to do with Silicon Valley, a lot of tech people supporting the left out of this stupidity and habit. It seems like the RNC is a little like running in like 10 years or 5 years behind schedule, right? that we're still seeing things that while this worked a lot, it's been very effective for decades, and it probably still is in a lot of ways to certain audiences. Are they taking the steps needed to make sure that the audience they want to reach is seeing this, right? Or are they just playing this to people like us that we're already on board, right? Are they preaching to the crowd, or are they reaching new people? Are they using the digital marketing and digital landscape in a constructive way to make sure that other people get to see this? Are they? I don't know. I don't know.
Did we challenge accepted wisdom and take on established systems? In my short time in Washington, I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. A small group of failed voices who think they know everything and understand everyone want to tell everybody else how to live and what to do.
See, I mean, I have criticism. I mean, I think this is a good video, and I like the way it's put together, but I think the music is a little bit loud over the audio. And I think after about a minute or so, you're kind of ready to move on, right? So is it effective, or is putting out headlines like with like the Google Ads thing, or like, you know, when someone clicks into a slander campaign that the establishments put out about Donald Trump, is there countermeasures to that? Because that's where it really makes sense, doesn't it? Right? The slander campaign, the against him with the Russia collusion hoax and all the other shit they've been doing it for so long, we could have used the same methodologies to counter that disinformation, right? It's just, it seems to be becoming the norm, the way that things are going to go, unless we find a way to get politics out of these technologies, which I don't know that we're going to be able to do, because it's products, influence, whatever. It's built for it, really. All you have to do is just change the architecture and the requirements from sales and marketing to politics, right? To demographics and data points that matter when it comes to politics versus, you know, your buying habits or what you're going to buy for. People have short attention spans, so it should be shorter and to the point, right? I mean, like a headline. I mean, I told you guys about the people that used to just grab sensational headlines and post them, and they wouldn't read the articles. I'd go back and they'd post like 10 articles a day, and I'd be like, did you even read this? Did you even read this? Did you even read this? And a lot of times they just don't. I know them in person, see them out at a bar someplace, and I'd be like, did you actually read those articles? Do you actually read these articles you post all the time? No, I just grab the headlines because it makes Trump look bad. I mean, dude, they're more than willing to play into the subversion. And a lot of people that are on the left, they go for those big triggering headlines because most of them don't want to deal with politics. They just think that they're omnipotent Democrats, have them handled and have them cared for, and they love them and they're going to take care of them. And all I have to do is vote for them and everything's going to be fine, because that's the way they learned it. They never, they don't think that they were ever fooled by that, or that it's a very immature kind of way to look at the world, right? They think they got it all figured out because they figured it out when they're know-it-all college kids or something, right? Youth only read headlines. The attention span to spend enough time to understand the context and actual facts is not there, right? So it makes making a case for actually that methodology, this tactic, you know, for adopting the tactics and just doing it in a truth-centric, anti-establishment way, right? I mean, how else are you going to fight them if they're influencing more people that way? And you know, these well done yet somewhat antiquated video ads, you know, television ads for the most part on the internet, are, you know, not suited for the younger audiences of today, right? For the internet age.
And how to think. But you aren't going to
Like, I don't even think Tim gets to this.
tell you what you believe,
He wants
especially
to.
when you know that you're right.
He won't.
I know that each of you will be a warrior for
See?
the truth.
At the time, 1 minute,
the point.
1 minute, 30 seconds, right? So that's as long as he could last on that. You get the point. Get the point. We've all seen it before. So is spending money on this effective, or should he be putting a digital marketing team together, a digital strategy team together to counter the establishment? Because that's where they're fighting.
I mean, I'd like to play it out. It's 2.5 minutes, but I think you get the point. And it was actually really good. I played a little bit longer than I thought I was going to. But the point here is Donald Trump's ads that he's running and the media blitz that he's doing with $100 million are meant to create an image, show Donald Trump, show his message, create a sense of awe and inspiration. That's typical advertisement stuff. Donald Trump making an ad showing his supporters waving signs and him saying, what will we be? Who will we be? What will we do? Totally fine. Yeah, that's marketing. That's advertising. Pretty good, by the way, but not particularly evil. What we're seeing here is instead of running advertisements where it's like Kamala Harris wants to, I don't know, what's her campaign policies? Maybe that's why she's not running these ads, because they'd say Kamala Harris simultaneously says she'll defend the border while opening the border and not doing your job as vice president currently. Kamala Harris cast the tie-breaking vote to tax your tips and now claims she wants no taxes on tips. The joke I made was
all right, and that's where you want to counter their narrative, right? That's where you would want to put one of these ads out to counter that narrative, where she's like something like no tax on tips, yet you're the one who voted for tax on tips. You know, that's where it could become very useful. I mean, I lean more towards, you know, countering their counters, you know, fighting them until we can uncorrupt the system. We have to kind of fight in trenches sometimes. I'm not against this in a sense of as a countermeasure. Let's put it that way.
When Kamala Harris said, what can be unburdened
for us to use as a countermeasure, to be clear,
by what has been, what she was really saying is that all of these really unpopular positions are because she's been burdened by Joe Biden. And now that she is unburdened by Joe Biden's resignation from the race, she is now free to enact her policies like no taxes on tips or build the wall and make America great again. That's the game she's going to play. This is what the Democrats are currently running to try and help Kamala Harris win. Fake news headlines to trick people into thinking the corporate press, well, they are in the bag for Kamala, but now they're all getting really offended that she's doing this. Well, here's the story. The Harris campaign has been editing news headlines and descriptions within Google search ads that make it appear as if The Guardian, Reuters, CBS News, and other major publishers are on her side, Axios has found. The funny thing is, they are literally on her side. Why it matters. It's a common practice in the commercial advertising world that doesn't violate Google's policies, but the ads mimic real news results from search closely enough that they have news outlets caught off guard. According to Google's Ad Transparency Center, the Trump campaign isn't running these types of ads, but this technique has been used by campaigns before. The ads say that they are sponsored, but it's not immediately clear that the text that accompanies real news links is written by the campaigns and not by the media publication. You know what, man? You know, I have a dream, and that is reasonable, honorable people make their argument, and then we vote for who makes the most sense. And then the loser says, well, I hope your vision works. I hope your plan works. They shake hands, and thus be the end of it. But how naive to believe that that's how politics actually works. It's never been that way. It'll never be that way because we have too many evil people. I love how these communists, you know, many of these younger idealistic communists who are stupid.
Okay, before he goes off, let's see. Crown says also, we are witnessing a time that is very unique, very, very soon. We will see voter generation who have been indoctrinated with Marxist teaching all through primary school, college. I think we're already there. I think we've had that for a while in terms of Marxist teaching. I mean, shit, it was there when I was in college. So education saturation was probably around 2009 or something. Ideological subversion has been going on for generations. Like you know, it may be more in the face of everybody and more accepted now because more generations have gone through it. But that ball had to start rolling a long time ago. But you know, we start like Yuri Bezmenov was talking about. You know, like it's he stated it was already being, you know, in full swing in the 80s. So I think that it has been. I think we're just seeing it so normalized now that nobody's even pushing back on it. And that's what Yuri said as well. He's like, you know, we've pumped Leninist Marxist ideas into the soft brains of American minds for generations with no one pushing back with what is Americanism, you know, and that's what, you know, Ron Paul, the philosophy of liberty, reintroducing liberty to generations. Donald Trump reintroducing Americanism to generations. That's where we're in the countermeasures of that now. But generations, Gen X included, have been thoroughly indoctrinated with Marxist ideas at the college level, at the very least. At least that's the history that I know, that I've learned over time, and those are the results that I've seen.
But seem to think that if you can just get rid of the evil people, that you will have a utopia. Then they create a path by which the evil people easily walk.
It's not about getting rid of the evil people. It's about, and I don't know. I know he's not talking about me, but what I'm saying is, like, I would say that it's not about getting rid of evil people, because there's always to be a battle between good and evil in this world. It's just one of those universal parameters that are in place, right? It's at the very outer veils of perception. That's really the underlying current between of ideas and energies that's out there. Something I'll be talking about on the Outer Veil series once we get time to get to it. But it's to minimize the corruption and to push and to install countermeasures against corruption earlier in life, right? Instead of gender identity confusion, the trivium, instead of critical race theory, Thomas Sowell history, filling in the blanks, filling in the omitted history parts. It's really just what I used the Thomas Sowell history to say, right? But it's the work that he's done, and so I gave him the recognition for it. That's to me, that's solution culture, right? And Tim's all about the culture war, but I haven't ever had a chance to talk to him about solution culture. So I think if we ever did have a conversation, that would come up, and he'd probably find a lot of it interesting.
Walk into office, take over, and then just start killing people. I guess the reality is good, hardworking people don't engage in these kinds of practices of trying to create utopias in the first place. They mostly mind their own business, but that allows evil to ferment, as it were.
Corruption to fester, right?
What they're saying, quote, while we understand why an organization might wish to align itself with the Guardian's trusted brand, we need to ensure it is being used appropriately and with our permission. We'll be reaching out to Google for more information about this practice, a Guardian spokesperson said. Spokespeople for brands such as CNN, USA Today, and NPR, whose links appeared in Harris for President ads, said they were unaware their brand was being featured in this way. Reality Chat. Google said the ads don't violate its rules, but platforms have in the past wrestled with whether this type of format can spread misinformation. Yes! The Harris campaign is literally rewriting news headlines and then paying for them to appear in the top of search. In the meantime, Google's been ruled an illegal monopoly. So this is a strategy to make sure the dominant search engine that everyone's going to use is going to be delivering fake news headlines to people. Kamala doesn't have anything to actually campaign on, so they're going to make it up. But it works. It works, man.
It does.
Let me tell you this. You got these Trump supporters saying the polls are fake. Kamala Harris is not doing that well. The betting markets are also fake. The prediction markets are fake. The betting odds are fake. Trump is really winning. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I can show you some data suggesting the polls are all fake and all that stuff. We'll talk about it. And also maybe Kamala is lying, cheating, and stealing. So, get ready. As of right now, I am feeling like Kamala's going to win. I really am. I look at everything going on. I look at how the Trump campaign is handling itself. And the Trump-Elon thing was great. Really great move. Really powerful move. Coming back on X was great. But Donald Trump can't just come back to X. He has to make jokes. The famous tweets where he said, the Coca-Cola company is angry with me. That's okay. I'll still keep drinking that garbage. So good. The zinger against Bill Barr is one of the best roasts anyone has ever done in the history of humanity. When he was like, previously I called Bill Barr fat, lethargic, incompetent. And since his full-throated endorsement of me, I've decided to remove lethargic from the statement. It's just so good. Trump is too good. Kafifi, bring back the meme magic, Donald Trump. That's what we need.
Yeah, that'd be good.
People want to have fun. They say Facebook banned the ability for advertisers to edit text from instant article news links in 2017, citing its continuing efforts to stop the spread of misinformation. Google argues that because ads on search are prominently labeled as sponsored, they're easily distinguishable from search results.
Are they?
For years, a Google spokesperson said, we've provided additional levels of transparency for election ads specifically. A source familiar with the Harris campaign's ads team said the campaign buys search ads with news links to give voters searching for information about Vice President Harris more context. The campaign has complied with all of Google's rules, although a technical glitch in Google's ad library made it appear as though some ads lacked the necessary disclosures Google requires when they ran. A glitch, you say? Just another glitch. It's always an error, a mistake, a glitch here or there. Election advertisers are required to complete an identity verification process, and we prominently display in-ad disclosures that clearly show people who paid for the ad, the spokesperson said. Let me tell you, when I try to run an ad for my podcast, which is not the advertisement itself, not endorsing anything, they tell me I've got to verify with my ID and all this other corporate nonsense to prove who we are because it's an election ad. And I'm like, it's an ad for a podcast. There's nothing political in it. And they're like, too bad. So the ad that we did do, it just removed all references to the show other than me saying, come watch the show. And apparently that one was fine. They say since August 3rd, nearly a dozen news companies have been used in these types of ads from the Harris campaign, Axios found. Independent UK, NPR, AP, The Guardian, USA Today, PBS, CNN, CBS News Time, WDAY Radio. The ads include links to real articles from news outlets, but the headlines and supporting text have been altered to read as though the articles in support of Harris campaign's objectives. For example, an ad that ran alongside an article from The Guardian shows a headline that reads, VP Harris fights abortion bans, Harris defends repro freedom, and then includes supporting text underneath it. VP Harris is a champion for reproductive freedom and will stop Trump's abortion bans. Masterfully done. You see, that's campaigning right there. Beat the people over the head, lie to them over and over, convince them that it's actually normal and mainstream and everybody loves Harris and Donald Trump is so weird. It's working. I really think it's working, man. Look, a lot of people ain't so smart. So here we have Glenn Greenwald with this tweet. Let me zoom in for you. He says, I was shocked yesterday when I saw Axios publish an investigation reflecting negatively on Kamala's campaign. But soon as the reporter, Sarah Fisher, was attacked for doing it, she immediately denigrated her own scoop, saying it was no big deal and Kamala did nothing wrong. Wow. Sarah Fisher tweeted, Harris campaign has been editing news headlines and descriptions in her search ads that make it appear as if major outlets support her. Google believes its sponsored disclosures are enough to keep voters from being misled, but media outlets may feel differently. She then responds, Harris camp doing nothing wrong, and Google, which is pretty strict about banning spammy ads, doesn't see it as consumer harm. News outlets just collateral damage in this weird ads tactic. Walk it back, get on your knees for these Democrat troll accounts because they will say mean words. Dude, you know, this election really comes down to a lot. Democrats really Democrat versus Republican comes down to a lot. There's men versus women. There's smart versus stupid. There's weak-willed versus strong-willed. There's agreeable versus disagreeable. A lot of these things, there's good versus evil. And it really is hyperpolarizing along these lines. Let me give you an example. Let's start with the 7 deadly sins, as it were. Pride, need I say more? Envy and greed, communism, sloth and gluttony. Ooh, that one's real easy. That is body positivity. Yeah. And then also, sloth does go along with communism too. Gluttony and communism don't seem to go along very well, but greed, gluttony, they all overlap, don't they? Ooh, wrath. I like that one. Antifa much. If you take a look at the 7 deadly sins, it really aligns perfectly with the Democratic Party. Did I get all of them? Because I can't remember which ones I said.
Right.
We'll make sure. 7 deadly sins.
Good.
The 7 deadly sins. Not that pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. You can look at all of these things that we're concerned about, and it's not even like a right-wing thing, and be like, yeah, those represent the cardinal vices, the cardinal sins, the capital vices, they call them. Pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. That's where it's really breaking down, isn't it? But I'll tell you, when a bunch of mean people say mean things to me on the internet, I just say, K. Unless I genuinely think I got something wrong. I'll like talk about a news story and someone will super chat and say, hey, Tim, actually it's X. I'm going to go, oh, is it really? Did I miss that one? Huh. But then I get people like trying to talk smack. It's really funny. I know it's a little bit personal, but it is exemplified here and the best way that I can tell it in my own personal way. This woman who's in news media publishes a negative story about Democrats. Democrats attack her. So she goes, whoa, whoa, oh, ah. She's scared. She's scared.
Yep.
And then you get these pro skateboarders. And I know this is probably a little bit more esoteric, but.
Okay, cool. We got that. We got it. I just wanted you guys to get the main part of that. See the Google ads, how they're being used, have the discussion about whether this is something we need to do or not, what to do about it, how to do about it. Put it out there. Give you guys the background information on how it all works. And again, the little details where people are kind of like amazed by, oh, they're profiling you by your personality. It's like that's par for the course. It's just they're repurposing sales and marketing data and technologies for politics, and it's gonna work. It's gonna influence some people. So when they're out there using it to counter, use that little psychological trick to counter it in the first veil, right? You know, are we missing an opportunity, or is it something that isn't worth addressing, and participating in, countering, at least for this election, perhaps just for a run to counter it, and then put laws in place where you can't use those kind of things. You can't do those kind of things, because they can be manipulated. They can be, because of the massive amounts of data and automation that's out there. Clever, smart people can rig it so, or can architect it so that it will do the things that they want them to do. It'll serve the content to the exact people they want it to serve to have an impact. You know, just a lot of people I know out there don't understand the technology or don't even realize that this is a major issue. But, you know, this show, this channel, especially this show, we talk about mind control. We talk about how information systems are used, how different systems are used to control minds, and how to break free from it, how to avoid falling for stuff, all that stuff. It's right in the wheelhouse of Unveiling Reality. So that's why I wanted to bring it to you tonight. I hope that each and every one of you learned something from this, and got something out of it. And I appreciate everybody who joined the discussion tonight and who participated. I really do appreciate it. I know it's late in the summer here, and a lot of people are on vacation this time of this year, and just kind of get the last little bits of summer in. I totally get it. And I appreciate you guys choosing to be here and spend your time learning this stuff and engaging in the conversation about this very important topic. It really does mean a lot, whether you're on X, Rumble, or YouTube, wherever you're at, wherever you're joining us. Thank you so much for supporting and being here for the conversation. Hit the thumbs up, hit the follows. It helps small channels like me grow. You know, I'm in the perfect persona group. I'm in the perfect segment for suppression, right? Not highly impactful or reachful at this point. So keep him down so people don't get a wind of his ideas and experiences and presentations, right? And don't let them pull any more people away from us, right? So they're going to keep me down. They're going to keep me down in the algorithm and all that stuff. But hey, guys, I really hope that this helps clear up a lot of things for people and shows you some things. And as you're out there, keep your eyes out for it. Keep your eyes out for it. You'll be like amazed by the fact that you now see this new reality. Clearly the veil has been lifted for this digital warfare that's going on. I will be back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern for another Winning 2024. We'll be diving down the big topics like we do. And we'll see if there's any more July 13th updates as well. I'm still waiting. We still have a long ways to go on that, by the way. Even though we've kind of like things are kind of grinding to, okay, we get the full picture on July 13th. For the most part, we still have a lot of answers we still have a lot of things that need to be answered. We still have a lot of interviews and first-hand accounts to go. I mean, just a reminder, we haven't even heard from his parents yet. So, like, whoa, you know, how's that going to go down? Sniper himself hasn't interviewed. And then there's official investigations to be wrapping up. We got that. We got debates coming up. We got a lot going on Winning 2024. So I hope you'll tune in tomorrow night. Great crowd there. 8 p.m. Eastern, right back here on X, Rumble, and YouTube, guys. Thank you for everybody. Thank you to T-Rex Trucking for super chatting. Thank you to Mimsy, Wolfram, and everybody else who does the great jobs, modding and all that. So we're gonna get on out of here, guys. Teaching everyone you think you again. Remember to stay based and to keep on winning.